the most Canadian meal of all time, apparently. Not really.
Now ribs, I think ribs would be.
Poutine.
Poutine's not really a meal.
Poutine, yeah, but poutine is a meal.
You can eat it as a meal, but
you can eat poutine as a meal.
You could, but it's like you could eat loaded fries as a meal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a healthy meal. It's not a complete meal, but it's definitely definitely a meal.
Come on, Sharif over there.
Sharif is having some issues.
This guy really wants us to owe us some time over here. He's panicking. He's got to get the mic going. He was doing the academy, now he's panicking. So yeah, we're ready to rock and roll momentarily.
He's doing curls with the microphone.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing the curl.
Right, he's locked and loaded, ready to go. We'll be back at 2 o'clock. Don't forget, sign up for the academy. Listen to Joey Options and the professor right now. Peace.
大家好，他的是 Joseph， 他的名字是 Joseph， 我叫 Sharif， 很高兴认识你，美国人。Oh, there we go. I did the entire thing in Mandarin. There we go. Now we're gonna get clipped. Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah, there we go, bro.
I understood most of it, too.
You understood most of it? That's crazy. What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to the Midday Show. There is a whole bunch going on this morning. There's a lot of small cap gappers moving here in the morning. But before we get to that, let's see what our boy Joey Options has been trading this morning.
Oh, yeah? We're going to hop right into things?
Yeah,
All right, man. Let's do it. Aside from that, guys, silver short one attempt, and then it was see you later on that one, essentially. It couldn't break this level, and I'm like, oh no, like this is not good, and it's going to continue to rip, in my opinion. So we got out right at a pretty good time. I was just reading this, and then the volume slowly started to kick in. All right, moving forward, NVO, not trading this very well here today, but that's all right. We're not going to complain about it whatsoever. Short, wanted to get short up here. I'm like, man, this thing is going to be a continuous bleed. Yesterday's daily showing relative weakness at the close as well. And then we get squeezed out. And then another attempt. I'm like, okay, we're starting to pick up volume here, guys. Let's get involved and let's see if this this breakdown is going to be sustained and no aggressive pullback. But that wasn't the case. So we go 0 for 2 on NVO and we go 0 for 1 on SLV. But moving forward, let's head over to AMD. Katina Man and I were like, hey, let's short this thing this morning. And first thing, as soon as Sharif's like, AMD's up 10%. I'm like, okay, just fade that pop. Yeah, fade that pop. But that wasn't necessarily the case because shortly after the open, I seen a strong move to the downside and then some indecision prints across the board. And I'm like, okay, let's get involved. So I push this here, and then I do get stopped out of the majority. But it was a decent sized win. This is AMDL, 2x leverage. And then I'm like, okay, if we're not gonna, if this breakout isn't gonna be sustained, let's fade it. And then I took a little scalp and I'm like, you know what? I don't like this either. So a little hesitation, but what I have been patient for is waiting for pullbacks and waiting for key support levels to where I can increase my risk to reward ratio. And then that's what gets me involved with this position right here at 30.50. We're now about 20 cents or so in the money. Let's see if we can get this move back up to the volume weighted average price. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind adding a little bit of shares. We have these trend lines drawn, and if they break, then that's fine. But my primary target is going to be the volume weighted average price. So these are the 4 names that I'm looking at here today. The TQQs, NVO, which looks like it's going to continue its slide, silver, and AMD. Sean has his sticky note. We got the notepad. Wayner does his thing. And someone said it in the chat yesterday, it's just formulating in your brain. Everybody has their own method to do so, whether it be a couple of words on a sticky note, lines on a paragraph, or typing in your Notion. Preparation is everything, because if you believe that you're gonna wake up in the morning, go to your computer and your boxers and hit a couple keys and make money and extract money from this market, you're wrong. So the best place to learn a process is from individuals who are doing it on a daily basis. That's Sean. That's the people to the right of me, and that's Wayner, which you can check out at the TraderTV Live.
Absolutely, guys. In case you're wondering what we are talking about, the campus program is now live. We're super pumped about it. It's literally everything that we went through as traders. I remember when I came here initially, it was May, I think 2nd or 3rd, 2022, and we got right into it. I'll never forget the floor manager at the time, Greg McEwen. You know, he took us through this whole thing. It was, I mean, you come here thinking that you know a lot too, and you really don't, right? You know as much as you were able to learn at home. And that's basically, it feels it's quite limiting. And when you come on the floor, you see exactly how everybody else is trading, all the different methodologies, and all the different nuances, the technical nuances that you didn't know. And more pleased I could not be with that decision to have made that choice. So if you guys are interested in that, it is super easy. It is literally tradertv.live and then /sign up. So here is the URL. Let's just show them Assassino if we can, right there. Well, you can just go to tradertv.live /sign up, but you can go tradertv.academy. I'm sure you guys have all received the email as well. If you're subscribed to our morning note, it is in your inbox. So we'll be talking more about that. We'll be showing you some behind the scenes content as well as the show goes on. But for now, Assassino, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these small cap gappers. And we have a halter, baby. There is a halter amongst us, and it goes by the ticker ANAP. We're calling this one ANPA, all right? And ANPA has been having a bit of an aggressive move. Last, it just got into the high of the day. How many halts? 1, 2, 3. 3 halts so far. Okay, 2 up, 1 down. Not bad. It's since slowed down a bit in its ascent. It hasn't done a whole lot of volume. Okay, it's $15 stock or thereabouts, and we're talking about less than 1.5 million shares traded on the day. I'm assuming that was because it was halting to no end initially, but it hasn't halted, I don't think, for a while. Let's see exactly how long that it's been. The up halt happened last at 10:12, so almost an hour now of no halting. In any event, it's holding structure. It's putting in higher lows. It's generally finding support at around the 10 EMA on the 5 or VWAP. It just got back into that 1550 area. It is a 1588 high of day, and it is up 86 and a fifth percent. So AMPA will certainly be in focus for me. I'm going to be looking to see whether it can hold that double top at 1475. That is my bias for an initial area of resistance. Now looking to act as support. So AMPA in focus here. We're going to try to be doing it live on this one. And there it goes into 1569. There's 77s. Now it is a new high of day on AMPA. It is all gas, no brakes on this one. $16 high day. We're talking about 1475, 1634 high of day. This one looks like it's going to halt here. Halt parameter 1637. You'll always be able to see it on the level 2 side for the halt. For the limit up, it's going to be on the right side of the level 2. Limit down will be on the left. 1637 limit up, but that will probably adjust as a timer resets on that 10% limit up. So 1634 high of day coming back down into 1570. We're going to be looking to do it live on this one. EDSA, much slower of a mover. Pardon me, I don't know what the hell I just did there. Yeah, EDSA, much slower of a mover, but up a respectable amount, 44 or 43.5%. This one is also holding structure. Moreover, I like this upward tilt. So that means right away, that's higher low situation going on over here. It looks like it's finding a lot of resistance at the third of a dollar. You know, not a typical area where you look for key areas of resistance and support. Usually those are the half and the whole, but in any event, looks like there is the top end of the range of this bull flag at the third of a dollar with a $1.35 high. $1.23 is the volume weighted average price, and about a little bit higher than a $0.25. Looks like 126 is the 10 EMA on the 5. RIME has been in focus for a number of days. Today, finally getting a good move back up about 24, 23.33%. It is bull flagging here, but I dislike the declining volume profile, very pronounced declining volume profile. What I do like, though, is the structure. I like the bull flag. I will not be using VWAP here as a key area of resistance and support, mainly because it is a line of best fit as opposed to any area of resistance or support. What I do see, though, is a pretty defined range. It looks to be 220-ish. Okay, that goes down to 215-ish, but 220-ish as an area of support with that 240-ish as an area of resistance. If that is your bias, it is mine. I will be looking to build a position towards the lower end of the range as a long to try, you know, either to play it as a range so long as it's continuing to show itself as a range trade. And then, as always, holding a piece for that dang dream where we can take out that 250 high. That is the high of the day. That's RIME. LRMR. You know, this looking kind of double top-ish over here with a $4 resistance level. We've got some action below VWAP. We've got some action above it. Let's cut the crap. This thing loses 3.5. I'm looking over to Neil, and if I need shorts for this one, I'm going to check to see if it's free for shorts, but I'm going to likely short this one. It loses 3.5. I'm taking this one down, maybe wherever, I don't know, to the depths of hell from which it came, 280, 285, 3, whatever, somewhere in and around that area. LR, MR looking double top-ish, and if it loses 3.5, I'm going short. BNAI is having itself a day, Joseph. 35% in the Ville of Green, 2750 high, barely even looking back at that 10 EMA. It's like, you're not even good enough for me anymore, man. I'm just doing my thing up here, my boy. 2750 high. It hasn't touched the 10 EMA, I don't think, since basically that 935 candle. It's been coming into some key areas of support, but it doesn't quite make it down into the 10 EMA. Levels on this are as follows. 26 1/3, 10 EMA, 2475, the volume weighted average price. We're going to be looking at that one. Some slower movers, but some, I don't want to call these former convicts, but they're recent runners. IBRX has been showing up on our scanner almost every day, saving except for a few. And today it's above. I did get above yesterday's high, albeit by cents. So yesterday's high was 11 on the dot. Today it gets up to 11.12, but it does have a higher low. Okay, a substantially higher low. So IBRX, I'd be looking, again, something off the 10 EMA. It looks to be shadowing that level. It loses the 10 EMA. I'd be looking at 1075. That's the double top at the implied balance open. Below that, we can have a discussion about that later. IOVA, this is the worst of the bunch, but I kept it on there because it clearly has a higher low trend. Okay, so if it's going to continue to hold that higher low trend, we can get involved. But if it fails, we can look the other way. We could look short here, 355 volume weighted average price. And then prior area low, we're looking at around 340. So IOVA also in focus. Did I cover all these? And then CVLT, last but not least, Joey, sorry. CVLT, this is the worst of the bunch, and this one may lose its spot on the side chart momentarily. 227 high. It looks like it's coming down in the VWAP, but it's an unbroken lower high situation since we put that high at 945. It can't catch a bid, and it won't catch a long for me unless it does, Joey. So those are the ones that I'm keeping my eye out on here, with a decided bias in terms of a big winner for AMPA, just because of how it's trading on the day. I do like the look of Rhymes Jib here as a range trade, and then possibly taking it for a breakout, and then BNAI. Who can complain about that?
Who's going to complain about that, buddy? That one there, my brother. Getting some love in the chat from Florida, to you, Sharif. Florida man, transplant.
My man.
Sending some love your way, both our way. Yeah, much appreciated, brother. Goes a long way. So, man, we're sitting in this AMDL trade here. You're not going to see anything on the board just yet. I have to make a transaction. But I'm trying to Deontay Wilder this into the volume weighted average price. I'm trying to think of another name, but he's probably the most diamond hand individual. Where's my boy Katina, man? He's got diamond hands too, but we can't hit that one. There he is.
Quick with it, eh?
Think twice. He's quick with it. Yeah, he's quick with it. But no, we're sitting in this AMDL, guys, looking for that move back to VWAP as the market is putting in a new high of the day. And then we have Nvidia.
Joey, you got to log in, brother. I love you, but you got to log in.
Okay,
Yeah.
if that's the only way I get the love. All right, so we're logged in, man. Did you hear anything? Are we going to Adara?
No, we got to do the read.
All right, that's good, man.
Read,
so there we
brother,
go, Joey. Thanks. Yeah, I'm logged in now, guys. So hopefully this AMD trade will start going for us now, considering. But in all seriousness, a nice bounce off of specific zones. All right, okay, we're going to Sharif here, but we're holding up on this trend line.
Sorry, brother. Everyone, the wait is absolutely over. We are now live at tradertv.live. We've done the work to get the platform ready, so now it's your turn to step inside. It's time for you to no longer just watch us trade, but to learn the foundation we built everything on. You need to scan that QR code on the bottom right of your screen or visit tradertv.academy immediately, like right now, to get started, guys. Thank you.
All right, yeah, so go and, guys, just literally grab your phone. I know 90% of you are holding your phone right now, and just scan that QR code and just check what you got going on.
Check it out.
I'm long AMD, but see, the thing is, Los, what I'm looking at right here is that we don't got too much strength right now. And if we start to slowly curl over, that's why I have these trend lines drawn out, because as soon as they're breached, I'm going to get out of dodge, right? So if we get anything opening on the backside of this trend, and you can see that we're running into some resistance zones. If you ask me 1 minute time frame, 2 minute time frame, this might be a potential head and shoulders. The only thing that's keeping me in this trade right now is the holding of this trend line. And I don't like how we continuously reject this 216 mark. With that being said, you know what we have to do? All right, it's a routine. It's the same thing over, you want to find something that's repeatable. Let's pull up AMD on the options chain and see what we got going on. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an increase in activity. Let's head over to, why does it always do that? Weekly, no, that's March. Like, why do you got to make my life complicated?
Oh boy. What happened, Joe?
Nothing. It just always does this thing on AMD for some reason. It just always doesn't allow me to see certain expiration cycles just on AMD for some reason. So anyways, let me kind of figure this out. Where are we? There we go. We got it. Bang. All right, so let's see what we got going on this week's expiration, especially at that 215, 216 mark. And I'm not seeing anything, but at 215, we do have a lot of activity here, guys, right? So from a volume standpoint, that's going to be the most on this week's expiration cycle. And then considering so, it's going to be up there in the open interest. But that's not a substantial amount. 210, we're already north of that zone. So I can see us kind of grinding a little bit higher. But again, I have to keep an eye on this trend line because if it breaks, that's going to be my green light to get out of this trade. And if we can get this pop, there you go. We need buyers to start to step in. We're up 14.5% here on AMDL, but this 1370 level is acting like a complete defense wall. So we have to keep an eye out on that one. Other than that, I'm not going to be shorting silver. We're going to be looking for a continuation to the long side there, brother.
Sorry, just give me a second.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing in some
absolutely,
orders.
absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm not going to get an ad at this point, considering we're just really treading a thin line. We'll draw our trend line because we've seen it on other charts, but let's throw it up here as well and see what we got going on. As soon as we breach that 1361 level, I'll have to take the small W that it's going to be. Regardless, we got a primary target. It's either feast or famine on this one here, guys. And we started 0 for 2 on NVO. I mean, it was sliding a little bit. This would have been a nice trade down to 40s, but that hasn't been the case. I wanted to get in up here, but hesitation nation, no hydration nation on that one there, Katina, man, as that one didn't work out. And we got out of silver to the short side at the exact same time, at the right time. So there's plenty of session left. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. Sharif had a good comeback last week. So yeah, I mean, anything's in the books. The volatility, I wouldn't say is in, but a nice steady uptrend in the overall market is there, guys.
All right, guys, let's say hello. Thank you, Lemon Family. T-Mass saying LAC, Lithium America. Let's take a look at LAC, see what's going on with that. He says low volume, though. Okay, let's take a look, see if the chart pattern is any good. That's the weekly, pardon me. Let me flip to the 5. Yeah, okay, chart pattern's good, volume is low. So you're bang on with that. Look, it's not low, it's about 5 million shares, 4.91, but it's a very clear declining volume profile. You can kind of see, especially on the black charts, you can really kind of get to see when the volume is sparse because the candles look a certain way, right? So I want to say, what's the high of the day on this monster? It's not loading up. Give me a sec just to adjust that. LAC, the high of the day, still not showing me, but looks like it's 489, give or take. Not a bad look. I mean, I give it the doji candle low. If you're going to get in here, you're going to punch in at the highs. There's that doji candle at 5, the 1105 candle, the low of which is 482. You're showing 85. I'd lock it in, keep it nice and tight there, and let me know how that goes. LAC, I'm seeing MP up as well. Then that means probably some others are up, so keep your eye out on that. I'm looking at getting in here to AMPA. I just pulled into the 10 EMA. I just tried a trade on this one, and it was a no good, so we're going to give this one a try as well. We got 34s. I'd like to give it to a skosh below 14. Oh, there it's going. Into 60 it goes. Let's wet the beak here. Let's put some orders there a little bit higher on this monster. See if we can get something possibly in and around 15. There's the first beak wetter there. Not a bad look. Let's put some a little bit higher, possibly right around that 15 area, showing me 75s now, 79. We're in at 35. We're looking for continuation. There's 78. There's 83. Okay, good look, good look. We're making some money back now. Okay, there we go. Let's take some off. There we go. Into 80s. Looking for the move. I appreciate you, Katina, man. I love when he's here, bro. He's good vibes. Here we go. So we're looking for that move into 15. We've got a nice hammer candle that formed off the 10 EMA, but guess what?
What?
This hammer candle is still red, Joseph Options. So let's not get too excited too quickly, right? The hammer candle is red. It's still got a lower high. It's still got a lower low than the prior candle. So we'll wet the beak here. We'll do some damage control on the prior L on this one, and we'll look for continuation, but it's still putting in lower highs. So yeah, don't try to catch a falling knife. I'm just trying to give myself room here, so if this one does move above 15, I can take some profit takers. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to have a tight stop right below my entry. That way we can kind of limit some of the damage here on this one. But there it goes into 88s now. It is now 90s, 15 showing up, looking for the move here. We're looking for the move above 15. Let's go ahead and wait. North of 15, we're going to hang out at the $0.25. There's a seller here. There's 15.12s. Okay, now we're looking for the move into the $0.25. Let's go, IMPA. This is a multiple halter, so be on the lookout here. It can go both ways. Not like that, of course. But you know exactly what I mean by that. So we're going to pack the patience here, Joey. We've unloaded the clip, and we've substantially cut down the loss that we started out with. So we'll keep an eye out on this one, and we'll look to do it live. But I also want to mention EDSA, guys. EDSA is making a move here. It's making a big move into $1.40. It's a very nice flat top break, I want to say, above that 135. That was my bias, that 135 was the level. It takes that out with a big green candle. I'm talking about this green candle here, bottom right of your screen. It is a 140 high, and it's looking for more, okay? So EDSA definitely looking for that move back into 135. 135 to 130 to 135, just so that we can retest that breakout level. That's what I'm looking for there, and we're gonna try to get in some should that let me. Nice bull flag on LRMR, says City Boy. Okay, sounds good. 1 second, Assassino, and then Rook, Sharif. The professional auctioneer, you got the number thing down. Yeah, that's what I've been told, brother. All right. We have an interview coming up, Assassino. So let's get that done.
Yes, we do. We're going to be welcoming here Raghav Mehta with Global X ETFs. Thank you so much for being here today. That is Raghav Mehta, Vice President and ETF Strategist at Global X ETF. Thank you for being here with us today. How are you doing?
So I'm going up with
Thank you, Adara, for having me. I'm doing well, doing great. Thanks very much for those who've tuned in. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear. The tech is working. Just wanted to check.
Yeah, you sound perfect, at least from my end. We're going to start here by talking about gold. So what's your near-term view on gold, and how can Beta Pro users capitalize on its most recent volatility?
Perfect. So if I talk about gold, if I compare the long-term versus the near-term view for gold prices, they're telling me two different stories, two different pictures. But back to the near-term view on gold, the market's running too hot. You look at the momentum that is stretched. The valuations for gold look to be stretched over the near-term, the short-term time period. If I talk about three leading market indicators over the last 6 months, it's three ratios on the screen to the left. Gold prices divided by the S&P 500 equities index level. Number two is gold relative to the broad commodity basket index as well. Number three, last but not the least, gold relative to the 5-year moving average. All three ratios are kind of peaking. They've stretched. And that tells me that the gold prices are kind of overbought in the near term. And when that happens, you look at the moving averages, the price of gold is currently significantly above the 20-day, the 50-day, and the 200-day moving average. When that happens, the market looks really stretched. And with all the rally that we've seen recently for the gold price over the last couple of months, or the last 1 year as well, gold has peaked. And when you see a peak, there's always that risk of a downside correction or a bit of a pullback. And that's a perfect opportunity for short-term speculative traders, the sophisticated traders who might want to step into the market right now to get that short exposure. They might want to express that bearish directional view in the price of the gold in the short term or the near term itself. And when it comes to short selling, it's never been this operationally easy to express that bearish directional view in the gold markets right now with these inverse leverage ETFs. If you go on our website, betapro.ca, we've got the inverse 2x daily bear ETF for gold bullion. The ticker is GLDD. That spells for GLD and down, gold and down. Again, if you buy that product, you get that short exposure to the price of gold, but at the same time, it's 2x the leverage, 200% leverage. So for example, if gold prices drop by 1% in a trading day, you're up 2% before fees and expenses within that trading day. And similarly, let's say if gold prices drop 2%, you're up 4% within that trading day before fees and expenses for that particular day. And the best part is you not only get the short exposure, as I said earlier, but you also get that leverage without opening a margin account or without borrowing on margin with these ETFs. And the best part is these ETFs rebalance daily. You know, we readjust our positions daily when we are running the funds at Global X or at Beta Pro to make sure that we maintain the target objectives of the fund itself in terms of the short exposure and the gold pricing. And the best part is when you go short and you get that leverage, you cannot lose more than what you own, or you cannot lose more than your principal value that's invested in this position for gold.
So with that in mind, let's move on here to the longer-term view on gold. How do you view the fundamentals of gold in the long term, and what's your longer-term outlook on this asset?
Sure. So as I said earlier, if I talk about the long term, it's telling me a different story. You look at the long-term outlook, that is still constructive. The fundamentals are still supportive. Central banks are still buying gold. You still see that demand that's rampant from the central banks. At the same time, you are seeing this view of de-dollarization, or sort of like a dollar alternative that most of these central banks are looking for nowadays, and that is gold. Right? So with gold, you get that inflation hedge. At the same time, it's a hedge against geopolitical risks and trade wars, tariff threats, economic uncertainty. So all in all, we see that as a bullish sign for gold. You know, there's more demand than the supply that's on the planet Earth right now for gold. At the same time, if I go back to that, the foreign reserves for the global central banks combined, it's the first time since 1996 when we are seeing the central banks collectively holding more gold than U.S. treasuries or the U.S. dollar itself. So last year, 2025, was that inflection point. And we have seen that shift away, or rotation away from U.S. treasuries into a more tangible real asset that we call gold. As a result, all of that is very constructive, very supportive for the price of gold. And when that happens, tactical traders, sophisticated traders might want to express that longer-term bullish view on gold. So with that, we have these leverage ETFs. The ticker is GLDU, which stands for gold and up. So it's the daily 2x bull ETF, which gives you that exposure to gold bullion. And you get that long position along with that 200% leverage in the market. So let's say gold prices rally by 1% in a trading day, that ETF will be up 2% in that trading day before fees and expenses. And again, you can get that leverage without opening your margin accounts or without borrowing on the margin.
Yeah, that makes sense. GLDU up and then GLDD for down. So two different ways to play this. Now let's move beyond the metals in and of themselves. How are you viewing gold miners and gold producers in the climate that we're currently in?
So if I go back in time, 2025, you look at how the gold miners fared, that was the best trade that we saw in the markets. One of the best trading ideas were a long position on these gold miners, depending upon which mining stock you look at, whether it's Agnico Eagle, Newmont, Barrick Gold, BHP. Collectively, the miners were up more than 150%. But even after this rally that we are seeing, or we've seen recently with gold miners, the miners are still trading below their 5-year average prices in terms of the multiples and the valuations. At the same time, if you cover the sector, our research suggests that even if gold prices come down to, let's say, the 4,000 level, they're still high enough for the gold miners to see a 28 to 30% earnings growth that's priced into the markets for year 2026 and beyond. At the same time, because of that, the fundamentals look really sharp, really strong. You look at the earnings guidance and the earnings estimates. Most of these miners have recently raised their earnings guidance, and they've also raised the earnings estimates at the same time. So with even a 1% move up in the price of gold, that creates a disproportionately large jump in the earnings for these mining stocks. And what that does is that creates an astronomical move upwards for these gold miners. So again, tactical traders might express or interpret this as a longer-term bullish view. So again, if they want to express that view or make a directional bullish bet in the miners, we have the GDXU ETF. You go on our website, betapro.ca, look up this ETF. That's the daily 2x bull Canadian gold producers ETFs. And then that lets you get that long exposure with the 2x leverage baked in into the strategy itself.
Awesome. So let's just wrap up here by talking about silver. Can you tell us about your short-term and then your long-term outlook here on SLV? Or silver in general.
Perfect, Zara. So silver looks like the markets are still digesting gains after the peaks that we've seen on Jan 26th. That was the date when silver prices rallied, and you saw a bit of a crash. If I look at the three ratios, silver prices divided by the broad commodities basket. Number two, you got silver prices divided by S&P 500, and then silver relative to its 52-week moving average. All three had peaked on Jan 26th, the date, and then the momentum turned bearish when the market crashed. So right now, the silver prices, according to me, are still overstretched, overextended, and we are headed into a neutral, somewhat of a sideways / bearish territory. So again, tactical traders who might want to express that bearish view can step into the market by using our Beta Pro inverse 2x leverage ETFs. The ticker is SLVD, which stands for silver and down. And again, if you buy that ETF, you get that inverse short exposure to the downside, and along with that, you get that 2x leverage. So if silver prices go down by 1%, you're up by 2% before fees and expenses in that trading day. And again, you can do that without opening up a margin account or borrowing on margin. Your gains are protected to your principal value. You do not lose more than what you own. At the same time, we rebalance the fund daily to maintain its target objectives when it comes to downside and the leverage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raghav Mehta, Vice President and ETF Strategist at Global X ETF. Thank you for being here with us today to talk some gold and silver.
Thanks, Adara.
Beta Pro, guys, great interview. Thank you, Raghav, for being on. Great information as well. And obviously, there's a lot of demand for knowledge about gold and silver right now. Raghav, thank you for educating us on that. We appreciate it. And yes, Beta Pro, sophisticated investors. You heard what he said there. So
GLDU and GLDD. Yeah.
There you go.
There, yeah.
All right, Joey, let's get down to work here. MBOT making the move here up into 25%. Your boy's long. I know position board's out. We're in at 52.5, high of day 58. Looking for continuation here. Now that we've cleared 50, my bias was the top end of the range was 50. Alas, the volume is sparse on MBOT, at least for now. Where's it at? For a little bit less than 4.5 million shares on a $2.50 name at about 11.30, a little light, but we're going to give this one the old college try. The levels are as follows. The 10 EMA on the 5 is 51s, and then we've got VWAP at 40s, high day 58. Looking for a continuation, possibly into $0.0002. But AMPA is losing it and losing it quickly. Thankful, got out of that one, was able to par some losses. Now it has got inverse hammer candle, and it is losing VWAP in a hurry. Here comes 13. VWAP was at 13 2/3, 13.06 candle. It is now a 5 candle red setup here, unabated down below the volume weighted average price. Topping tail candle probably, was a bit of a warning, but we know with the topping tail candles, for the most part, they are not the end all and be all on these small cap gappers because of the intraday profit taking. But AMPA is losing it here, and we need to look at where limit down is, man. Let's have a look at limit down, 1214 limit down. Low of the candle right now, 1264. Nope, correction, 32s. We're pretty close here to limit down, man. We are about 15 pennies. Let's see if the selling continues down, whether the shorts are going to smell weakness here and really pile in. 1214 limit down still. It's only done about 2.4 million shares on the day, but it's finding a bit of support here, trying to bump this back up above the $0.50. But AMPA is very, very close to losing its spot on the side chart here because it is substantially below the volume weighted average price. So we'll see if that one can set up again. But let's get right down to it, man. Shout out to the individual in the chat that I was shouting him out. He's like, EDSA, EDSA has absolutely made my day. More please for you I could not be, my friend. Too bad I forgot your name. This one is up 63% and on the precipice of taking out the $0.50. It is just glanced at 150, Joseph. There's 149. ETSA is really starting to pick up here, and there's ample amount of shares that have exchanged hands on the day, about 31.25 million. So you're going to find plenty of volume here, and it's a tight spread at a penny. And obviously, you know, for those with smaller accounts, they typically like these kind of stocks because they can take thousands upon thousands of shares with a relatively smaller account. And with these kind of names, because you're up 64, 65% on the day, you're able to make a good return in let's just be honest, intraday, right? A shorter period of time. But always trade these carefully. Just because it's stair-stepping up in an organized way, it doesn't mean that it's going to continue to do that. The bottom can drop off, as we've seen many times with these small cap gappers, just like it's doing down with ETSA. So sorry, AMPA. AMPA's losing it here, down into 2 1/3. Joey, limit down now. I want to update them. It's no longer 1214. It's 1189. So be careful.
Yes, sir. All right, so that's it. We're all out of AMD there. It's starting to break down. That trend line is cracked. We get out. We have that initial pop, and I'm like, you know what? We're either going to go to VWAP or this is going to be just a liquidity grab, and we're going to fail. And that has been the narrative. So I took some more off. I was sitting on 20% right there, and then sure enough, starting to come back into that break even, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's only a penny or two away. Now it's a penny away from coming back to that level, and I'm completely fine with getting out when we were supposed to. Okay. So that worked out. Small W on that front. AMD has definitely been our better trader here on the session. Nice strong move out of the beginning. We get a little scalp here to the short side, and then we get all out, and then sure enough, we get a nice, stronger, sustained move right here. Unfortunately, we didn't catch the peaks at it, but we're not going to complain about it whatsoever. All right, so moving forward, we have our eyes on the Qs. You have silver now dipping into the volume-weighted average price, getting somewhat of a bounce. I was thinking getting a continuation in today's selling, and we noticed that in the pre-market. Yesterday's strong session. You do come and test some of these lows in the pre-market, and I was like, oh, all right, right here at VWAP, let's see if we're going to get that over turtle shell type price action and then that move and maybe potentially test this specific zone. That wasn't necessarily the case. We're starting to bounce off of VWAP. So go with the flow on silver, and if the narrative on the day is to the long side, I want to stick with that. I don't want to counter trend. I don't want to try to catch a reversal on this name. I want to go with the flow because it's significantly easier, and that's essentially what we were doing here with AMD. Right? AMD, I'm completely fine with our losses on NBO. I'll get to that momentarily. But AMD, what did we have? A strong pre-market move on the meta news. Okay, that's fine. I have it here in the notes. I'm like, we're either going to get a sustained move, we're going to break through that pre-market high of 226, and then maybe even breach that, or we're going to get a little bit of a selling type price action, and then a rebound that's a little more choppy and less volatile, right? So you can see that move has been steady up and to the right, but we did give some back right out of the gate. So that's what I've been focusing on. And as for NVO, I've got the shorts, but I was 0 for 2 on them. Why am I fine? Because look at the narrative on this name. You zoom out, it is absolutely getting destroyed. And I just want to go with the flow. If I happen to be wrong, that's fine. My timing might be off, which it slightly was, but the overall trend is to the downside, and I want to stick with that and not complicate my life. There's a time and a place when you're looking for those retracement plays, but other than that, the majority of the time, you're going to have a better off, and you're going to feel much better if you are just going with the flow. Yeah, you can get those strong rebound, but why would you want to continuously try to force something against the grain? Okay, it's like swimming. It's like swimming against the current. You don't necessarily want to do that. And the current being the tape. Okay, follow the tape, read what it has to say, and sure enough, you're going to be putting yourself in positions where you're more than likely to win. Okay, so silver back to the top side, running into some pre-market zones. I want to see what Apple is up to. Starting to form somewhat of a bull flag, but we do have some strong moves, strong momentum on that side. NVDA continuing to climb higher, running into that 193 zone. Amazon, what have you been up to? Steady up and to the right, helping drag the Nasdaq a little bit higher. There's Google, a weak opening drive, but starting to recover right now. And Tesla, what have you been up to? Katina Man, crushing this one this morning. Multiple pullbacks and VWAP bounces. You can see the buying pressure really start to step in at the volume-weighted average price on the 5-minute time frame. Again, you can have your base, you can have your out. You want to give it a little bit south of the support levels, but you're going with the flow. Long end, this may be an additional leg higher, but if you're wrong, at least you're putting yourself in the right place, in my opinion.
There goes ETSA into the high of the day of 157. It's up 75% now, 74 2/3%, and we haven't executed anything on it. It just didn't come into the levels that it's continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. So it didn't come into my levels. I don't execute on it. There it is again into a high of day 160. Very, very strong, very directional, holding structure, very little in the way of bamboozlement. You didn't get much, if at all, prior bar low break. So if you were riding trend with a tight stop below prior bar low, you haven't been forced out yet. ETSA's him right now. Topping tail candle forming right now into 160 on the 5, looking for a move back, possibly into 140, 150. We're 10 pennies high a day clearing here of that 150 level into 160. So let's see if 150 acts as a level of support. I haven't executed anything on it here yet. I also want to bring your attention to AMPA for those who are inclined to trade these small cap gappers below VWAP. It is putting in a hammer candle here. So what I would say, if it clears the hammer candle and turns green, possibly into 2 4/5, possibly even 13, it could be a possible retracement into the volume weighted average price, which is at 13.55 at the moment. But it's not showing you that right now. It's got a higher low, but it's also got a lower high. So AMPA not quite ready yet, and it's also lost VWAP. So that needs to be kept in mind. I've worked into a new trade, RIME. I mentioned this one at the top. It seems to me like there is a range here being established with generally 20 pennies, $2.20 as that level of support. It's not a strict level because it breached it on a wick basis, but very little in the way of closing prints below that. And then 240 as resistance. So I took this trade. I'm in at 22s. It's showing me 24s, but it hasn't quite worked up into the volume weighted average price yet at 30s. So that would be my, one of the initial profit targets I'm looking for into that 30 penny level. And then ideally, it gets back into the top end of the range 40. And then maybe even if I'm lucky, into that 50 penny level. But I got to manage my trade here on MBOT because we have multiple resistance levels here for whatever reason at 58, not a level I would have earmarked for an area resistance, but I'll keep my eye out on this one. Back into 57 it goes. Just gonna wet the beak here for, you know what. ETSA coming into the $0.50 as we were thinking, and it's finding support. It's got a bit of a topping tail look right on it right now. Prior bar low is 44. 10 EMA on the 5 is 41. There's a buyer here at 50, and it's very obvious. There's more shares coming on here. Let's give this one to prior bar low, okay? We're gonna give this one to prior bar low. That takes us down, as I mentioned, into 44. We lose on this, we lose. So we'll give it to prior bar low, and we'll see what comes of this trade. I wanna try to ride trend on the strong ones, and very clearly, ETSA is a strong one, Joseph Options. So we're gonna try to do it live. What do we have? We have 52 showing 54. Let's wet the beak here. Let's let the beak as well at 56s, and then possibly even 58s. 60 penny high a day. There is the first print into 55. Let's see if ETSA can take out that 60 penny high a day. There's 56. There's another beak wetter looking for 58s now. We've got nothing at 60. Let's post at 60. Let's post at 62 as well. Some selling coming in though. This is a candle of indecision. It's got higher highs and higher lows, but almost no body to speak of. That's because the opening and closing prints on the current candle are basically just shadowing one another. I got to keep an eye though here. Oops, what did I do? I have to keep an eye. What the hell did I do with my level 2? It went away. I have to keep an eye here on my RIME because it is losing 20. I've tried to strategically place my stop so that I don't get stop hunted. I don't want it to be too close to that 20 penny area, but it does look like it might be heading down now into 18s. I've got 22s on this one. We're going to pause for a second. We got to go to Adara at the big desk.
This headline a couple hours old, but I'm just seeing it circulate on social media starting now. So I do want to mention it. Microsoft announcing a partnership with SpaceX's Starlink to expand internet in rural and hard-to-reach regions. Looks like there was some kind of video call to announce this with Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, and CEO, of course, of SpaceX. That would be Elon Musk. They did some kind of announcement of that. I did look into this. Like I said, not a brand new story, but one that's just starting to get social media traction. Microsoft partnering with Starlink of SpaceX. Back to you.
Let's see what that does for Microsoft here.
Soft one.
Yeah, let's see what Softy's up to. I mean, it's been getting rocked for the past couple of days. Not much crazy going on here on today's intraday session, but a strong recovery. I mean, the 5-minute opening drive relatively weak, and you can see some weakness out of the gate in the pre-market, but you rebound through that and you go through the pre-market highs, and then now you're starting to experience a little bit of a pullback considering yesterday's session wasn't too good now, was it? It wasn't horrible. But aside from that, a nice rebound. Tesla has definitely been one of the stronger performers here today. See, so there it is. Like this VWAP breakout failed. Totally fine. I just believe that if you attempt this, you're putting yourself at the right place. It may not be the right time, but you're going with the flow. You also want to just gauge everything and see how it is. There was some buying pressure stepping in, but let's look at an identical pattern here. And this is where I went wrong, and I just knew. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't too good. I thought we would get a little bit more of a sustained breakout here, and that's going to be on SLV. So we have this indecision print, and there was this specific 5-minute candle that told me, hey, we might be ready to turn around, break through that support level, and then maybe put in a new low. I'm not saying establish a completely new one, but head towards that neck of the woods, giving us a good opportunity. As soon as it breached some of these resistance zones, I was at a dodge. Where's a similar pattern here on NVO? Look at this here. Look at these price action prints right here at the volume weighted average price, and the exact same thing with NVO, and then that's what decided me to get out of this. Let's pull this back here to get our VWAP up so we can see a little bit more clear. And sure enough, you're starting to see these indecision prints. I thought we would get that support level breakdown quicker than what we did, but tight stop with larger size, it wakes you out and then eventually makes that move lower, but totally fine. Just looking at the indecision, allowing each specific candle to tell me their story, to say, hey, which way are we going? Are we gonna be right all the time? Absolutely not. We are fortunate enough to get AMD working for us. We haven't got NVO, nor have we got silver in the past couple of days. And NVO was good yesterday, but silver in the past 2 sessions hasn't been my best trader. And I've just been trying to go with the flow on this name. I'm keeping my eye out on AMD. The trend is now broken, and you can see that the volatility is really starting to compress. All right, so with that being said, you're gonna have to sit through a little bit more chop, which is totally fine if you have the ability to do so. But silver coming back into some specific zones that I like here, Shreve, and I might try to attempt a long if we see the right price action prints at VWAP.
Yeah, interesting here, blog post by Microsoft on that story that Adara just brought us. So it looks like the collaboration with Starlink is kind of twofold here. One, they're looking at using their low Earth orbit satellites to help these kind of community-based deployment models. They're talking about rural areas, agricultural, basically hard to reach communities where traditional ground infrastructure is impractical, but they also have a pilot program in Kenya. Apparently here they're working with local companies to provide about 450 community hubs. We're talking about farmers, cooperatives, digital centers. The goal is to combine satellite internet with digital skills. So interesting look here. Nothing that I would say is really groundbreaking or market moving. I don't see a whole lot of revenue, we'll see. We'll see. Who knows whether that's going to be big for Microsoft or not. But interesting look, and it's good for in my perspective from the SpaceX point of view. Less, a moving story for Microsoft, more for SpaceX. I think the more companies that they can get into bed with, obviously, the more legitimacy they will have. We'll have to wait and see. But can I tell you something? There's political headwinds still here for Elon in Canada. You know that Ontario canceled their Starlink program for the northern community, so they're going to go with fiber. Basically, they're going to
they're going to install fiber.
Exactly, and which is a lot more cost inefficient.
Extremely.
But the politics are what they are at the moment.
So fiber was a big thing in the late teens, or I guess the mid-teens is when they really started installing it.
Talking about Bell and things.
Bell and TELUS and all
Yes,
those,
sir.
and the bigger companies. But what I think, Sharif, I think that's a really bad play. Obviously, the animosity between the states, the tariffs, and everything along those lines.
Exactly.
But I think it does more damage in the long run by giving yourself a lagging technology opposed to just constantly with the technology that's growing.
And that's the thing, right?
And
it's not like I see them choosing Kuiper.
No.
You know, it's like they're going to the older technology, right? It's not like, you know.
So yeah, I think that's me there. So I think it's really, again, you want to be stubborn, sure, that's fine, I can understand that, but at the end of the day, it's going to leave you a couple steps behind.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Well, we'll obviously wait and see, but I think that's been the decision here for a minute. Big Dougie was on CNN yesterday. He was like, the walls are closing in on President Trump. BRTX. Thank you very much for that, Zen Zombie. Yeah, this is a nice look here. Very aggressive move, and it lost VWAP, and it lost it quite aggressively. I wouldn't have earmarked that 22, 21 and 4/5 area as a support, but it found support there, and it hasn't looked back. On its way to 30 pennies, it's up 49, almost 50%. BRTX is the ticker. Thank you for that one. You know, sub $1, but we won't discriminate too much. I'm gonna switch my CLVT chart into BRTX because chart-wise, this is a lot better, and there's plenty of volume on this one, if I can say so. 112 million shares, but albeit on a 30 penny name. But we'll definitely keep an eye out on this one. BRTX is the ticker there. I'm also still involved, as you can see there, guys, in both RIME and ETSA. I got out of MBOT. MBOT lost the trend. If it sets up a bit better, I'll get back in. But there we go. ETSA into the day high now. What do we have here? We have 52s on ETSA. There's a seller of note at 60, but there's a lot of buying here. I think we're going to reject initially, but there is a lot of selling and a lot of buying at this level. Look at the tape, teleportation. But one way that I look at is to see if any of the size on the gateways is getting eaten up. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There's more coming on. So one of two things you can make an assessment from this. One, it's a hidden seller. It's a very large hidden seller. And number two, there are, for the moment, an equilibrium between buyers and sellers. There's a lot of buy orders coming in, as you can see on the buy side, but equally as many sell orders. No, they killed them, Joey. Up into 162 we go. Let's see if ETSA can get a little bit higher. I'm posted now at 64s. We've got a couple of beak wetters here that have gone printed. Let's go ahead and post up a little bit above that. ETSA looking real good to the tune of 80%. How many shares? Okay, good. We're good on that one. Looking for the move here into the 2/3 of a dollar. That takes us into 66, 67. Let's see if we can get there. If we can get there, then we're going to be looking for 3/4. But there's been aggressive selling at multiple levels, to be expected, of course, on a dollar name. But ETSA, in terms of chart pattern, looking real good. Kind of the exact opposite of RIME. For whatever reason, the spread's opening up on this $2 name, which has done 30 million shares on the day. I just saw a 3 penny spread back into 2. Okay, we're going to keep an eye out on that. We'll come back to that. There goes ETSA, taking out all my orders into 69er. There we go. Now we're posting at 72. Let's see if ETSA can get a little bit higher. It is 169 penny high. We got 52s on this one. The breakout is clean here on ETSA. Let's see if we can get a little bit more, Joey.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, so there goes AMD right back up. There's a couple indecision prints on the lower time frames, and then now we're heading right into key resistance zones, but a steady grind higher. We got a $2 super chat by JKL, shorting the Qs after a run up this AM in tech. All right, man, best of luck to you. Hopefully we'll hit spin this for you momentarily, and then we'll hit this for you as well, too. So we'll just get all those things going as he's engaging to the short side. Speaking of short side, here goes silver breaking through some support levels right at the volume weighted average price. A curl over. I had a small hunch that we were going to curl over at some point. Now this is going to be a key resistance or support zone. If we have one more pop up, fail to establish a new high, then I might be able to engage at the highs using this as my out. And if we breach that, then maybe it's just going to be a sustained move to the top side and a complete recovery on today's intraday session. But AMD, a nice strong move, that's for sure. But one thing to know, guys, this is what I'm looking for specifically, and just going with the flow, is that you can see the strength within the move southeast. And then look at the breadth that we're experiencing. Look at the strength. And we talk about effort and result time and time again. Does that mean that it's not going to fully recover? But no, what is that displaying in my eyes, right? This is how I perceive the market, is that this is relatively weak compared to what we're experiencing in volume starting to step in to the south side. So that's when I look for any forms of indecision, signs of weakness, for that curl over once again, and we can run right into this resistance, this prior support zone, and that can act as resistance, and then we can curl over from that. But thesis can be invalid at the breach of this 79.70 level. So keep an eye out on that. And I like what Hangry Wife was talking about earlier. So we're gonna pull up Microsoft one more time, and they were just bringing out the point is like, hey Joe, yeah, we were talking about Microsoft for quite some time, and the fact that what we were experiencing from a daily perspective after a couple quarters earnings report isn't sustainable. And then sure enough, for quite some time, we were like, hey, I don't care what it is. There was no significant pullback. I'm like, in my short time trading the market, I've seen this too many times. And I'm like, I don't think that this is going to be able to be sustained. And sure enough, look what we're experiencing off of this previous high, right? So what we had here is worse on the backside of it, and it's like same with Robinhood. You think that some of these names are untouchable? Well, guess what, Sharif?
Yes, sir.
Everybody in the market can get touched, and that's Robinhood, that's SoFi, that's Palantir. The market will sell, and people will take profits, and the names that you think are going to be the strongest and sustain their strength eventually will get hit for some reason. Why? Because in my opinion, the market will make something up in order to sell it.
I knew that touch comment was going to get the chat
touched.
going.
Yeah, everybody can get touched, man. With the chat saying, yeah, I mean.
Look, Red Ginger making me laugh. All right, touch me. All right, now Ginger, we're good. We're good over here. All right, so I took out Rhyme. We're flat on Rhyme. I just didn't like the way that this broke down below the key level. Look. I may have gotten this one wrong, but I'm seeing a downward tilt to the range now. If that's the case, I shouldn't be long if there's a downward tilt. You know, I could reclaim 230. What's up?
No, AMD's going now.
AMD's going, eh?
Yeah,
8%,
yeah.
it's back. Yeah, it's back, it's moving. Good look there, Joey. BRTX continues to move as well, guys. At 3120, which is pennies, 31.2 pennies, yeah. Into the high. It's getting a little extended away from the 10 EMA, which is around 28.50. I got a bias that this one comes in a little bit. Maybe it doesn't breach prior bar low, or maybe it does. If it does, you know, I'll be looking for the 10 EMA, but I'm looking here for an entry into BRTX. It's looking good on the day. Did I add this to my side chart? No, I didn't. BRTX, let's go ahead and put that. 52%, 121 million shares. So ample liquidity on this one. And I've said very little about IBRX, and IBRX just continues to do well. Yes, there have been breaches, wick breaches of the 10 EMA, but they've been quickly bought up and they've been followed by newer highs. So right away, when you see a chart pattern that looks like that, to me, it says two things. One, the money fills are between the 10 and the 20. We see that a lot, right? And then number two, if you're putting your stop too closely below or too close to the 10 EMA, then you're likely getting wicked out. And nobody likes to get a wick out and then see, you know, it make a new intraday high. So IBRX is on my radar now. As I mentioned, I'm going to be looking for the money fills. Now, you don't get them often. Like, look at this. One money fill here, 11.15. You get a breach of the 10 EMA, and you just got one right now, 11.55. So they're few and far between, but they are happening. And if they are going to continue in this way, I want to be able to work into it. So IBRX in focus for me. ANPA is crap. IOVA. Okay, this one is looking different here. Now, I worry a little bit. Why? Because we've got a higher low. But what keeps me quite interested is look at this rounding pattern off the volume weighted average price. It's a clean hold of VWAP. That's first and foremost. Number two, you have a 6 candle green setup on the 5. So 6 green candles in a row. And number 3, you're getting that curling pattern. That curling pattern is telling you a story. Okay, it is saying to you that the buyers are buying at higher and higher levels on every successive drop or every successive candle. That's pretty good. Okay, we're trying to put the odds on our side. Those are the good points. The bad points is we're still suffering from lower highs. So there could be a bit of a cap on this one. But there we go. Here it comes, man, into 375. So IOVA is starting to look real good here. But the Fluffsters is telling me to look at NCI. When the Fluffster tells me to do it, I do it. I don't like this one, Fluffy. Let's show everybody. Her name is Fluffy Hippo, Neil. What do you want? Neil likes your name, Fluffsters. Yeah, so you told me about this one yesterday because I drew this trend line. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like this one, Fluffy, because it's done 1.61 million shares. It's a $6 name, mind you. That's an aggressive drop from 760 down to 584. Geez Louise. It's still negative on the day. I think it got to about 695, 694. And we go positive. But this one is not for me, Fluffy. But I hope you print on it in any event. Just say keep your eye on it. It will go. Just watch. Okay. I like that confidence. I do. And just because you said that, I'm putting it on the side watch list over here on NCI. Shout out to Fluffy. Julian's, Hims and Oscar. Let's have a look. Those are two names. I typically don't trade, brother, because I'm small cap gapper only. But we will have a look at it just because you asked. Let's bring in the other chart here. Pardon me. And then I got to keep my eye on my position. Oh, there it goes into a new high a day. I'll get to that one in a second. Let me see if I printed. I was waiting above 170. That's why. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and wait a little bit higher in case we get an aggressive price spike. So we're going to go 173 and 177. Oops. Oh, go 179. All right, let's have a look at Oscar and Hims. So Hims reported earnings yesterday. And look, there was some good stuff in that earnings report. We're going to get to it certainly on the new segment. It's recovering. Okay, to go green on the day, it's got to break above 1550, and it's awfully close. It just attempted that breach at about a quarter to on the hour, 1547. The high or yesterday's closing print, I think, is 1550 or 1551. In any event, this looks like a good bull flag here. So it's negative on the day, but it's looking kind of, like it might want to take out that 1550. I'd say build your position off the 10 EMA. As you can see, the breach here was super transient of the 10 EMA. I'm talking about the 1120 and the 1125 candles. It didn't breach by much, and it immediately retraced and made another intraday high. So I'd say look to the 10 EMA first and foremost, but don't be too stingy with where you're putting in your stop, because that's just kind of a recipe to get wicked out, and everybody hates that, right? So Hims, let's look at Oscar. Okay, I like Hims a lot better, but I see Oscar trying to make a move into 1245, 1225 high. This is definitely not for me. I would say that you're probably more limited in your way up. First of all, is it lacking a catalyst? Yeah, it is lacking a catalyst. I would say Hims probably a bit more dynamic on the day, given that it had earnings yesterday. So that's kind of my look there. But BRTX continuing to make a move, and IOVA continuing to make a move. But guys, we're going to pause for a few minutes that is. We're going to send you to the big desk with Adaro. She's got it happening now. And then Neil, as always, with his lesson of the day.
To start here with a look at the Nasdaq, rather the QQQ is pretty choppy here the last, I guess what this go back to like just over an hour now, base of 606.30, top here of 608.10s. Let's see if we have this breakout on the Qs that it seems to be wanting to work towards. We'll take a look at the S&P 500. SPY looking kind of similar to the Qs, but a little bit closer to breaking out that high of day than what we're seeing on the Nasdaq. I want to briefly visit, I think what's by far been our largest or most interesting intraday piece of news, and that would be SNDK. SanDisk actually trying to come back to flat right now, but it did drop pretty sharply initially after Citron Research announced that they are short SNDK. Then I want to talk about META. Meta, not the biggest mover on this story, but they did another catalyst as well. So let's go over some of the stories with Meta today. META has announced, I guess, a partnership with AMD, through which AMD is going to be letting the company use some of their chips. AMD actually traded higher on this. Meta didn't do too much, but then we had another story in Meta that was interesting. There were some reports suggesting, I believe from CoinDesk, suggesting that Meta was going to be doing a stablecoin. Then the company's VP of communications saying that there is no Meta stablecoin, but then said, quote, this is about enabling people and businesses to make payments on our platforms using their preferred methods. So it does imply some kind of fintech catalyst just not stablecoins. If I get more details, I'll let you know. But speaking of details, we're going to get more details from a whole host of companies, including, yes, Neil, that is Timothy Chalamet, and he is the global brand ambassador and probably future Oscar winner here. But he's with Lucid Motors. Lucid does report earnings after the bell. So does Kava. So does Tempest AI. There's a whole bunch. There will be infographics for several of these, including this one you can find on X at TTV Research, because why are we here if not to have a little bit of fun? Speaking of fun, Neil's going to give you both fun and content in a couple seconds here. It's the lesson of the day.
All right, it's bonus lesson here as well, because thank you, everybody, and thank you, Adara. The bonus lesson is Timothy Chalamet also played the son of the vice president in Homeland. He was involved in a hit and run. It was a major storyline that was rather annoying to most people if you were a fan of the show, involving the main character's daughter, which just kept dragging on too long. But he was pretty good, I have to admit. I loved that show, and he was pretty good in it. But that's not the lesson of the day. The lesson of the day has to do with General Tao Chicken. Now, you might be asking yourself, how is it possible that a trading lesson of the day can involve a story about General Tao Chicken? Well, for two reasons. One, because someone mentioned that they were going to get General Tao Chicken in the chat, and that is literally my favorite whenever I get Chinese food. And two, one of the reasons why we think that the Academy is valuable for everyone that's clicking that link and joining the Trader TV Live Academy is because of the level of experience that you have on the show. Like myself and Sean, almost 50 years, and Sharif and Joe and Brennan. I think when we add it all up, it's probably like 70-something years of trading experience. And in that time, there were a lot of stories and lessons to be learned. And a lot of them, I think, are applicable to all traders. Some maybe just if you're starting out. But we can all grow from that journey. That brings me back to General Tao Chicken. Trading is incredibly difficult. And I'll walk you through, like when I started out over 20 years ago, you're a trainee in a prop floor, and you're trying to make your way to graduated trader, trying to make some money. I was young, I'm living at home, I'm out of school, I don't really have any money. And you guys see that we get like a catered lunch here every single day. It was actually true on the trading floor back then as well. Only trainees didn't get the catered lunch. There was like a coffee machine, you get free coffee. There was pastries in the morning, you could eat those. Obviously, that's not gonna suffice most of the day. But I was making, I was definitely eating a lot of the pastries and drinking a lot of the coffee because I couldn't afford to eat out for lunch every single day. But the full-time traders on the floor used to love to once a week order from this Chinese place right down the street. And I mean, I'm telling you, the first time I had the General Tao Chicken there was the best I'd ever had. And I remember the first time that one of them hollered, "We're getting the General, and let's take some orders." And then someone stood up and he came to the trainee group and said, "Hey, someone wants to go grab this, yours is paid for." And if anyone's ever seen, like, there's a skit that Bernie Mac does where he's like, "Man, I'd be that dude snitching on everybody," like he's jumping up and down with his hand up like this. That was me. I was that dude. You think I'm ashamed to go out and get your food for you? Hell no, I didn't give a damn. Why? Because I'm gonna eat for free. Because whoever picked up the food, they would pay for the trainees' food. So I got to eat General Tao Chicken once a week. I didn't have any money to afford that nonsense. I couldn't be eating out because I didn't have a dime. I was living at home. I was trying to make it as a trader. But I saw an advantage. I'm like, I'm gonna eat good, and all I gotta do is take a walk that I might have done anyways when I'm taking a break. So I'm gonna take advantage of it. And there's two lessons to be learned from that. One, trading is a hustle in that you've got to put that work in and have that mentality. And two, it is not easy, and you will have a lot of failure, and you will take time to build an account, and you will need to save money, and if you don't have a second income, then you will need to have that. And so you've got to be smart about the way in which you allow yourself to learn and allow yourself to make it through those hardships. Whatever it is that you have to do, you will have slumps. You will take months, if not years, to learn. Can you do that? Right? The reason we call it the Academy is because it's not just some free, silly course that you do for 1 week and you're gonna be a great trader. It is ongoing and continuous because that's what the journey requires. And along that time, it requires sacrifices. Sacrifices like being humble when you're building your account and trying to have enough trying to have enough capital so you can take a real go at it, so that you know you can handle a few months of not making an income. Especially even when you're an established trader, you might have a few months here or there. There's fortunate traders that might be pretty consistent, you know, but not everybody's going to be, and you have to be able to admit that, because there will be those difficulties online, and you do whatever it is that you have to do. So it's something that I never forgot. The other thing is, look, I stayed at home. I've said this before, so a lot of you, if you've been watching for a long time, I was living at home even after I started making money. All right, there was a point where I remember, I had friends I went to university with, and they were working at banks, and I started doing better than some. I was still living at home. My girlfriend at the time was like, "Why the hell aren't you moving out? Why are you living in an apartment with moms and your aunt?" I'm like, because I'm trying to build up my bankroll for when I hit a slump as a trader. Like, I'm not sitting here with some stable 9-to-5 job. I don't know what. Like, I had no clue. I had no clue I'd still be doing this after 20 years. If I'm being real about it. Even my dad and I used to talk about it all the time. It just kind of worked out that way. But part of it was because I was constantly saving, being realistic about the journey and the ups and downs that would be there. So anybody that tells you it's easy, or tells you that you win all the time, or that you can just do this one thing, read this one book, and you'll be set, do this one strategy and you'll be good forever. No, it ain't about that. You're gonna have to, it's a longer journey. You're gonna have to sacrifice. You're gonna have to work hard. That's what we're all about here. And I wanna tell you the good. And as always, I always like to end the lesson with, I'm not eating General Tao chicken, unfortunately. It would be much better than this. But I've actually eaten half the tilapia. It's not bad, it's cooked properly. And there's like a little bit of, it's like maple glaze, they said. There's enough of it that you can tell it's maple glaze. So it's solid. Like, I'll give this one, I've been given a lot of like low 7s on this. Because it's tilapia, I can't press it in there. So it's gonna be a solid like C+, which is like a 65, 67, something along those lines. I think is like a, 67, let's just call it. I'm gonna give it a 6.7 out of 10 for the tilapia. And I don't know what you guys were laughing about over there, because like when it came to me, like Sharif is still laughing. Joe, I turn to Joe and I just go, "What is so funny?" And he just starts laughing like I'm supposed to know what the joke is. So somebody let me know what was so funny before I came on. These guys are still chuckling about it, and I would like to know what the joke is. Just saying.
Neil, you're putting us on the spot here, Neil. We can't disclose.
Man.
Obviously, we'll tell you off camera, but we are.
Yeah, obviously we'll tell. Yeah, obviously
that goes without saying, of course. I mean, there's no secrets, especially with the OG Neil. By the way, guys, that was truer words haven't been spoken there. Neil really driving it home. Personally, for me, the whole thing with Academy is, it really helped me with risk management. So this is my own story. Everyone's gonna have their own kind of, their own journey, and there'll be a story with that. To me, I thought I knew what risk management was, right? You understand just the basic principles. You put stops here, you wanna use a certain percentage of your daily risk. All that's great when you're at home. But when you actually see and you're using somebody else's money and you're sitting there, you have to be accountable for it. It really, really was the driver that I needed for me to enforce those rules 100% of the time. Or, as close to 100% as you can get. And so it really did help me when I came from a structured, from reading books into an actual, let's just call it what it is. It's a vocational course. There's theories, great. John J. Murphy did a fantastic job with that, technical analysis of the financial markets, but there's no vocational side to that. So you guys, trust me, if you really want to go through the learning process and understand the nuance of how to manage risk from a professional kind of perspective, you need to scan that QR code. You need to do it, right? I don't even think it's. Hey,
I'm looking for something.
Yeah, you're looking for something. I know you were going to tell your story as well.
Yeah.
That QR code right there where it says Real Trading, scan that QR code, guys. You don't even have to sign up. Scan the QR code, read what it's about. If you're interested in it, go ahead and have a look. If you're not, there's no obligation, clearly, right? You're just scanning a QR code. Let us know what you think, though. And if you do sign up, and if you feel maybe there are some things that we could include, let us know, man. That's what we're here for, and that's the whole point of this interactive back and forth that we have.
Who asked that question? Fabian would ask that question. Anyways, I couldn't find it. I just wanted to touch on your point there, Sharif, about just going through as many books as you possibly could.
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, if I show you, and I meant to bring you guys, like I had a stack of them. It was probably like 30 books on the overall market. I read all of them. I have countless pages on notes. And it's all fun and games. You can read these things. They're extremely helpful. They put you in the right direction. But I'm not going to say it's all out of the window as soon as you step into the real thing. But it's pretty close. Until you put these things into actual practice, it's substantially harder. Sharif, you were talking about risk management.
Yes, sir.
And how just coming on the floor just kind of changed it. I wouldn't say that was everybody has their own thing that they're like, hey, what am I missing when it comes to my trading? And for me, that was just an in-depth look, using different gateways. It wasn't necessarily hotkeys, but just a pushing of when you see a setup that is really, really something in your favor that you would classify as higher quality, a higher grade setup, is what really helped me on the floor, is like watching guys like Wayner and everybody else around me just pushing size on those higher quality setups is what really, really helped me, I wouldn't say take that next level, but take a different look into the market and just being out when you're supposed to, like just get out, get out, get out. And I remember when I first came on the floor, every Wednesday, we would have these meetings and everybody would go over their trades, we'd critique them and say like, hey, this is where we're going here, this is where we're going wrong. But what helps you is that there's something, I think, in everybody's journey where you feel like I'm missing something. And I think a good place to start is going to individuals who have gone through those experiences. And I think that's what the Academy is really about, to be honest with you. So just go and check it out. You can read all the books. Absolutely. You can sit here. You can watch us. But until you really start to participate and get inside of the network, you're always on the outside looking in. So
Exactly,
just keep that in mind.
And can I say something?
Yeah.
I thought, like, when I came, I'm like, yeah, I know how to read level 2. I know it all. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know shit.
No,
right?
you don't know it. I
The
mean, like, and Neil said this the other day, like, as you continuously learn, it's just like, okay, you feel like you may know anything, but the smartest people know that they know absolutely nothing.
There you go.
And then that's how you have to have a mindset of. So, yeah, silver's continuing to go high. And Sharif, you were talking about your journey. I remember, so I was about 2 years into my trading journey.
Let's hear it.
I went through educational processes. I read the countless amount of books, and I mentioned that I felt like I was missing something.
Okay.
And I was on the brink of quitting. I was literally being like, hey, this isn't what I thought it was, but me, I just have a hard time giving up. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. Let's put ourselves out there.
Exactly.
And then that's when I actually started to apply. And I remember I would go out onto this peninsula after trading and just by the water, everything.
Oh, I think you told me this story before.
Yeah. And I would talk to myself and just continue to say. And then eventually I got an email on, literally I was about to quit and be like, hey, I'm going back to Bell. Screw this. I look at my email the next day, and Wayner emailed me back.
Come in for an interview.
Yeah, he's like, come in. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a sign. And I think it's just to take that initial step, leave no stone unturned. And as long as you continuously work, you're going to find your way, hopefully.
Oh, was that a Rihanna reference? Work.
No, it wasn't.
Right,
I never blew up my first account. I've been fortunate, but full disclosure, I've taken my biggest loss on recently. So I haven't really been pushing any size in November on those IBIT. When IBIT, I had a substantial amount of contracts, and I took a big-time hit on a year that I was performing outstandingly, and then sure enough, we did give back the majority of that. But no, I've never blown up account. Why? Because the first thing that I was learning was risk management.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's really the point that I wanted to drive home. That's really what I got the most out of this. I figured I understood risk management, I understood stop placement, all the different methodologies that you can use to kind of manage risk, whether it's ATRs or whether you're using technical levels, whatever your methodology. It's an entirely different thing when you learn it from a vocational sense rather than a theoretical approach. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to drive home. It helped me. I'm hoping it will help you guys.
Dude, makes you, even to this day, like I'm 5 years in, and then year 4 is when I made my biggest mistake. Why? Because I didn't follow my stop loss.
Yeah, well,
year 4, right?
There you go.
Because at that point, it's like, hey, you think you know everything, but yet you still know jack, and you think that the market isn't going to go against you, and that isn't the case whatsoever. It does not care, and it will do it. Whether you're year 4 or 5. I remember an individual I used to watch, year 10, he took his biggest loss ever, and he's like, yeah, I cried. I cried on how 7 figures, right?
That's the way it
7
works,
figures.
man.
He's like, man,
That's
I
the way it
lost the
works.
majority of my account, 7 figures. Sit down and absolutely cry when you lose $1 million.
Yeah, it's not pleasurable.
No.
Just give me 1 second. I want to throw in a stop here, Joey, for AMPA. So just 1 second. Let's adjust that over here, and then we're gonna throw it in right there. There we go. That'll give us a little bit of room on that one. So AMPA made a bit of a different move here. It broke VWAP, and it looked like it broke trend pretty aggressively. That lured me into the trade, but looks like it's dancing with the volume weighted average price. We're going to keep an eye out on this one. I added into my EDSA position because it's a 4-candle pullback on the 5-minute chart, still holding at VWAP. I should give this to below the $0.50. I'm gonna review this one here in a second, but it's right at the 10 EMA. It's a 4-candle pullback. We'll see how this one ends up doing. What do we have? We have 78s on AMPA. Okay, not a bad look. Looking for a move above 14 and possibly above prior bar high. Prior bar high on AMPA is 14.10. So let's see if we can get something a bit above 14.10. Let's go to 11s here. I think, yeah, anywhere below VWAP here is going to end the trade for me on AMPA. I'm also still, really looking at IBRX, and I haven't pulled the trigger at all, and that's kind of on me. Let me bring in the side charts. IBRX is looking fantastic here. Again, you didn't get a money fill yet. That was the money fill we were talking about. That was 11:55, so 5 to noon. That was the money fill that we were talking about. The previous money fill at 11:15, and why I say money fill is because it's kind of that in between the 10 and the 20. So typically when they do that once, they'll do it again, but we're gonna keep a close eye on that. I just got stopped out of ETSA, so that's on me there. I had my stop above the $0.50, but if ETSA sets up, we're still positive on it. If it sets up a bit better, I'm gonna get back in. But for now, I'm gonna focus on AMPA, ANPA, looking for this one to hold VWAP, possibly test that $14 level again. It's not looking fantastic. It's a lower high. This is why I got in. Okay, let me make my case to you guys. So I've been talking about the A+A and A+ setups. To me, have been the ones that have been very directionally up and then have prolonged periods of downtrends where they just really respect the trend line to the downside, not breaking them. This one broke it, and broke it on good volume. This one has about relative good volume, about 60,000 shares. It pops up above VWAP. It's a 3-candle hold above VWAP here, but it does look like it's holding on for dear life to the volume weighted average price. So we'll see what we can get here. It's showing me 75 on the bid, 75 on the ask, 63 on the bid, changing obviously with every second. But that is what I'm looking at there. BRTX is another one we've got in focus, sub $1 name, 31.20 high, dropping below 30 pennies now. I'm waiting for the downtrend to break. It's an unbroken downtrend from the 11.55 candle, which is the one that made the intraday high. So we'll keep an eye here on BRTX, looking for a break above the lower trend line and for a move past 31.20, Joey.
Right, good stuff. I want to say one more thing. I don't want to continuously beat a dead horse. But you remember when you were younger, Shree, if your parents were like, don't do that, you're going to get in trouble or you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Parents are continuously telling you something and you think you know better.
Yeah, that's I didn't know better, Joey.
Yeah, you didn't know better, right?
No.
And that comes with an experience. Yeah. And as soon as you do it enough times, you're like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's exactly what you have to. You're going to go through those scenarios, but the real important thing is learning from your mistakes. And if you don't learn from them, then it's essentially pointless. And that's what the narrative in the market is. That's what Neil's fantastic at, and everybody's really good. It's just getting out when you're supposed to, regardless if you're right or wrong. And that's essentially what happened to me here on AMD. Looking for the short wasn't the case as it's continuing to grind higher. We were long, looking for that move back into VWAP. Didn't get what we were looking for. So, yeah, I'm just going to be sitting on my hands right now. I don't have too much going on. We'll be slightly red here in the day. I don't even really want to look because it doesn't matter. It's one trade away, and who knows what can happen in the latter half. We can put ourselves in the right place at the right time, and then it's just a click of a button, and we're in the right place, and we're in a good position. So higher quality opportunities, getting out exactly when we're supposed to. And that, you know what this is from? Just getting out when we're supposed to. Obviously, you do it from time to time. We talked about that. But it's just going through the experiences and then just be like, yeah, I'm sick of not listening to my rules. And I said this a long time ago. Follow your rules. if you break your rules, eventually the rules will break you. And then sure enough, that's when you start blowing up accounts and having a really bad time. So it's the simplest thing. And if you're running into those issues, scan that QR code right at the bottom of your screen.
You got to the point right there.
Go check it.
So that's what we're talking about, guys. We are talking about the Academy program. That's why we're telling you all these stories, because we went through the whole thing, right, on this floor, in this room. So if you want to kind of join and see what we went through, there's the QR code right there. Have a look through it, peruse. If you like it, sign up. You don't, move on. Simple as that, okay? AMPA, having trouble here with 14. Joey, it's got lower highs ever since taking the volume weighted average price. It's above VWAP, which is about 1356. I've been wetting the beak here. We've got 72s on. We had a couple of ads on this one. I've gotten some money fills here into the 14s. I want to say above 14, 1405, 1406. But there's really no good continuation, sadly, above that $14 level. And here we are again, right back at 14. I've seen the spread open up at around 14. So you'll see, 14, 1420, 1418. And then you look at the bid, it's like 1401, 1402. So no decisive clearing of that $14 level, but we are accumulating. There's volume coming in. We had a big buyer there that put us back above the volume weighted average price. Now we need the buyers to step in and start putting in those higher highs. Those are still eluding us at the moment. Outlaw Trader, can I get a loan to sign up? All right, brother. I'll have to wait for some other heavy hitters to come around over here. But you can go in, you can peruse, you can see exactly what it's all about. So I don't think you need to break the bank for that, though.
You can just check it out like that?
Yeah, well, I went and I had a look as well, Joey. EDSA is breaking trend, okay? It might be starting to kind of look like that downtrend has been broken. It put in a green hammer candle here on ETSA, but I don't want this to lure me in. So I'm going to be kind of insistent that we get a little bit higher. So I did stop out of ETSA on the last remaining amount, positive on it, but looking for a move to kind of curl. Now we have a couple of higher lows and higher highs, but this current candle on the 5 is red, so it's not exactly appetizing. So I'll pack the patience here. I don't want to get in and get cut up and then start losing everything. But I'm gonna regret getting out of Rhyme. Simple as that. I had a bias that this was a range. I didn't pack the patience, as I always try to advocate for, and I would have been doing real well on this if I had, because there it is, right back above VWAP, and it didn't really, break down too much below the range. So a little disappointed in myself in that I didn't have the patience here on RIME, but it had a downward tilt to the range, so I felt like it might be flipping from a range into a downward channel. I was wrong, and I was made to pay vis-a-vis no profits. Okay, Nick, thank you very much, Nick, for the $5 super chat. Hey, Sharif, could you give me your thoughts on the chart set up on RCKT? I took a long swing yesterday with 2440 target and FDA review undervalued. Let's look at RCKT. Bring in RCKT. Thanks for putting that up, Assassino. I appreciate that. So let's, it's a nice chart on the day, compression pattern, bull flag. You could make the argument we've got a bull pennant, lower highs, higher lows. That's RCKT for everybody following. But the OG 2440 target. Okay, I see. We're coming from a lot higher. All right, so what do we got here? We certainly have a long consolidative range ever since this really dropped off. That was May 27th, 2 days after my birthday of last year, of 2025. And by when all was said and done, this thing was down about 66% on the day, ended up closing about 60% on the day negative, okay? Since that time, the base, we never saw that low again. In fact, it's been basically higher lows, okay? So I don't want to go ahead and say a range, but it does look like $4 has been a bit of a sticky spot. Let me put in the ticker so everybody can follow along. RCKT. Okay, $4 generally is a resistance area. Now you have had, times where you've broken that 4, but you've retraced right below it. Now the good news is you're putting in higher lows on those retracements. 475 is where the exponential 200 exponential moving average is. Much lower is the simple, 350. So about a $1.25 difference here between the simple and the exponential. Not something you typically see with these ones. I do like the fact that it's no longer in the downtrend and rejecting off the 50, because that was a very clear pattern. That red line will always be the 50. That's exponential, by the way. It was rejecting off that to no end. $24 is his target. That would bring us to about here, into that range. So that would bring us into the range that we were, Joey, in the summer of 2024. The range for me, your major resistance area is going to be somewhere around, I want to say, the high teens. Reason is, look at this base here that you've been putting in. First, you're going to looks like you're going to run in resistance at 12, and then generally between 15 to 18. So I think 24 was certainly a resistance level from basically late 22 to when it broke out in late 23. I think it's a lofty goal that you've got for $24, right? Especially since we're trading at 4, but I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. I like the fact that you've broken the downtrend. I don't know anything about the company. Like I said, you said something that they had an FDA review. So this is the headline on it today. Rocket Pharmaceuticals price to risk ratio. Okay, no. So that's just a technical or fundamental analysis. It looks like they're presenting at the TD Cowen and Leernick Partners Healthcare Conference. So it looks like there is an entry. That's from the 23rd. So that's from yesterday. The conference is going to be March 2nd. So I would be on the lookout for headline risk on March 2nd. Now that's going to it's going to take place at 11:10 a.m. And then there's going to be another, so that's the TD Cowen conference. That's March 2nd. And then there's going to be another Lear Inc. Partners Global Healthcare. That's going to be March 10th. And that's going to be at 9:20 a.m. Both are on webcast right there. So you can check that link right there. So I don't know. Technically, it's not the greatest. At least it's breaking back above 4. I would say look for resistance at 450 and then 475 where the 200 EMA is. That's my look there, Joey.
I don't know. See, I don't know whether to be offended or to laugh. It's a really tough place that you're putting me in here, Danny boy. But the thing is, though, I'm going to brush this one off my shoulder and I'm going to chuckle and pretend you are laughing with me. But here it reads as follows, Sharif.
Go.
Danny boy. Joe, thank you for sharing your story. There was a time when I, too, stood at the end of a peninsula thinking about giving... I can't even read it. I can't even read it.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it, please.
Joe, thank you for sharing your story. There was a time when I, too, stood at the end of a peninsula thinking about giving up on my dream to become a stolen cheese dispenser tycoon, but I stuck to it, and look at me now. My man's got the money.
You see where I'm getting at? I don't know whether to be extremely offended or to laugh.
It's funny.
It's absolutely hilarious. Yeah. But yes, no. Thank you for that one. This guy is absolutely.
I like this guy's good
he's
humor,
funny,
bro.
Man. He's got a great sense of humor. So yeah, thank you for sharing your story. Absolutely. And I mean, continue to do your thing, man. I don't got anything right now, Sharif. I'm sitting in some silver. Let's see if we're going to get a break of this previous pivot high. If we break 79.50, then we're out of dodge. So I'm giving it 17 cents, a little bit more. You're tired of his cheesy jokes? I think they're comical, man. And if anybody, like, I could take it one of two ways and be like, hey, Danny boy, you got to quit that, or I can laugh it off, which I think, I love the cheese dispenser business. I wish I could invest in it, to be honest with you. He had a lot going on. And we still haven't got that reference call, by the way, that we were waiting for on last time. But thank you, Danny boy, for sharing that story. So, yeah. All right, let's pull up silver, guys. We tried a short on AMD. That didn't work out for us. Boo-hoo, right? Let's not cry home about it. We're not really getting anything going here today other than let's going with the flow here with silver. Let's see if we can break through this $80 mark. Let's pull up the options chain on it and see if there's still that size sitting at that strike price. And if there is, then we might be in a little bit of trouble, but that's all right. We'll just continue to get something going. This might be my last trade. There's no size there at 80, so that's something a little bit warming. That is also expiring today. So, okay, yeah, now there's 30,900 contracts right at that $80 strike price. So we might run into a little bit of trouble if that isn't absorbed, but I will gladly take a move up into that zone as soon as it breaches 60, 6-7 cents worth of risk on this trade.
Huh?
Yeah, so that's it. We're all out of, I'm not saying we're all out of trades. I still have 90% of my risk, but if I'm not in sync with the market, I've taken too many losses already today, so I have no issues with shutting it down for a small loss on today's session, Sri.
All right, guys. I'm in IOVA now. So this one, it made another attempt. Let's talk about this, because remember I was worried that this was going to make a lower high, and in fact it did, right? Double top into 380, doesn't end up clearing 384, so that's technically a lower high. But what keeps me buoyed here is, yes, that higher low. That is a good look here. And the fact that it's kind of curling back up, so I'd like another attempt at that 380. IOVA is a bit of a slow mover, so don't expect, you know, rocket ships or rockets, I should say, from this one. But I'm trying to take that curling pattern in the same way that we looked at it before, and there it is, popping up into some levels. So we'll take the first print there on IOVA, and this would just be aces if it could kind of test that 80 penny, I want to say low 80s, maybe 81 penny, high a day, and breach that bad boy so we could test the 86. So we'll see what we get here with IOVA. I'm packing the patience, but really unsure how this resolves. AMPA, back down into VWAP, and now we've got yet another lower high trend. I feel the shorts are in control here of AMPA, and now we're about 22 pennies out of the money on this one. We did get several beak wetters north of 14, but this feels like, you know, it was an ill-fated attempt to reclaim the volume weighted average price and break above 14, because every time we get into 14, the short sellers are there. They're quite aggressive, so this might not be the look for me here. So I have my stop exactly where I want it. If we end up getting stopped out, we ended up getting stopped out. There goes IOVA. It just took out my order at 78, and now I've got another one at 80. 80 probably will be an important level, so I do anticipate there's going to be a lot of defending by the shorts there. As I mentioned, that's the double top that we put in over here. That is the 12 o'clock and the 12:05 candle on the 5. So let's see if IOVA can do it live. But I removed EDSA ETSA to put in IOVA, and now I'm seeing ETSA very, very consolidated, very sideways here, right? It's not exactly showing me that rounding pattern, so you kind of get the feeling we found a base and then we start putting in higher lows and higher highs. Not quite yet, to be quite honest with you. So what I'm looking for here is a move above 160. I think if we get that 160, we have higher lows right now on the candles from 1220 onwards, okay? So they're higher lows, but they're not exactly higher highs. Get that higher high by printing above 160. A move above 160 probably lures me in here on ETSA. So that's what we've got right now. Keeping an eye on AMPA, concerned that this one will lose the bid. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust my stop, Joey. And I'm not going to adjust the stop price. I'm going to adjust the spread. Right now, I've got a 12 penny spread between the triggering price on my stop and the limit, right? So I use limit stops. I don't like to use market stops. So I've got a 12 penny spread on this one, but we know that this one is quite volatile, so I'm going to give it to a little bit low. I'm going to give it a bit wider, excuse me. So let's go ahead and do just that. Going to go into, there we go, and then we're going to go all the way down here, right? That way we can kind of protect ourselves a little bit from an illiquidity grab. So there we go, and I've got that exactly wrong. So let's go, there we go, Joey, there we go, and then we're going to go. Take over for a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, so I got all out of silver. I just don't have the right reads here today. So essentially what we got going on, we're going to go through the losses, right? This is how some of the days go.
Thank you.
1, 2 there, and then I think we took 1 loss on, 3 losses altogether. Good thing we got out of silver, and then we took 2 losses on NVO. So I believe that's 5 losses here in total with only 2 wins, and we're just slightly red. So small potatoes, 1 trade away. But me just trying to preserve mental capital, I might not even trade anymore today, to be honest. Is there something else that you wanted to
Oh, no, I just put in the stop. But
put in the stop. So yeah, that's what I got going on here, guys. not necessarily in sync, some missed opportunities. I go long, sure enough. Yeah, it starts to sell a little bit. We'll pull up Novo Nordisk. Did I take any more attempts on that one? But yeah, it didn't start off too good. I was thinking short. Oh, yeah, great. Dark pool weight. Yeah, so we took the 2 losses there on Novo. We had some nice trading on AMD earlier in the day, but then that started to come to a cool. It bounced off of those trend lines and then continued way past our target, and we weren't fortunate enough to participate. It was this pullback, boom, and then sure enough, off to the races, thinking we get a little bit of reversion, using this previous consolidation high as our out, and then sure enough, that's exactly why we got out when we were supposed to. So, resume? What was that cheat? Oh yeah, I know. I got to apply there for sure.
Troll.
Yeah, Cosmic Zebra. Yeah, I mean Cosmic Zebra 420. I don't. I'm not even going to shed any light on what they have to say. I'm sure there's somewhat of a joke. It's hard to push my button sometimes, Sharif, but there's other times I do get slightly agitated. But this is not one.
No,
this is not one. I'm jacked up off of 4 espressos at this point. Ooh. Yeah, and I don't even drink coffee, so maybe I won't do that.
Lit up.
So yeah, exactly. So maybe I won't do that next time because I actually feel it. I gotta drink more water today.
So you just said jacked up there, right?
Yeah.
So that brought me back to StarCraft. You never played StarCraft. So
I never played StarCraft.
But if you guys know, you know the fire bat. What does he say? Jacked up and good to go, right? And then he blows fire everywhere and gets everybody out of his way.
In StarCraft?
Oh yeah.
All right.
So you got your regular Marines. That's the most basic of infantry. Then you got fire bat. Then I think there is another one. There is one above them, but there's the Ghost. He can launch nuclear weapons.
Oh.
Yeah. So and he can disappear. So yeah, there's a limit to how much time he can disappear, but he can also be detected by the scanner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you're playing.
Did you ever watch the movie Starship Troopers?
I did not.
And boy, Neo, I knew Neo. I would get Neo going on that one. Starship Troopers, man, that was like the first alien invasion movie I ever watched, and it was.
Ampa just dropped off.
Pretty cool.
And I adjusted my stop, right? I gave it to 25 pennies, and exactly why I was concerned with that. No, brother.
Oh, no.
No, I got plenty of slippage on this one.
Oh.
Yeah, it dropped off a cliff. Those lower highs were operative, and that one was ample amount of slippage. Even though I gave it to 20 pennies, when you have these stocks are super illiquid, like AMPA is, only done 3.14 million shares on the day, oh, wow, that was an aggressive drop there. So that'll put me negatory on the day, and we were doing well. So try to work back out of that. But ANPA, it's no longer tradable for me. The Nurse, yes. No, the Nurse came later. I think that was StarCraft 2, right? Remind me, though. Yeah, man, he knows. Amazing movie. He's talking about the thing you were talking about. That was a classic.
Yeah, it was
Starship Troopers. Man. People loving it, man. That movie is basically StarCraft, says Marco. Okay, actually, I got to watch that, man.
It's tough to watch now because the graphics and everything are just so bad.
I like that, though. I like those ones.
It was a classic back in the day.
I like those ones.
You know what they need to make a remake of?
What do they need?
What's my boy Tom Cruise's movie, War of the Worlds? A good quality of that one. I think that was a solid movie. And they need a Robin movie. I was telling Neil this. I'm like, why don't we have a good Robin movie? And I mean, like, not Robin Hood, but Batman's Robin. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Aside from that, guys, let's see. I mean, we're sitting patient. Full disclosure, I'm down a fifth of a shutdown, so that's small potatoes. We got a lot of room here, and I don't want to rush into anything because it's literally one trade away. It's like, oh, I see something. It grabs you by the face, and you're like, I have to take this trade. The market is slowly starting to curl over, but I just believe the Nasdaq is so hard to short. And what do we have to do when we are looking to trade this? Let's take a look at what the big boys are up to. Let's head over to the watch list. I know we got a super chat here, Sharif, we'll touch on momentarily. And this is what I see on Apple. Is this Apple? Yeah. I mean, there might be a potential long play here. You can use 170, you want to give it a little bit of space, 170, 165, so approximately 70 cents worth of risk for a move a little bit higher and a break of the downtrend. The volume-weighted average price is somewhere in this neck of the woods, so a move back into view up could be a potential play. I like how that's starting to formulate. NVDA continuing to climb. There you go, see Microsoft starting to form this bow flag. Excuse me, and if that's the case, see these guys are continuously grinding higher, and if you're looking to short the overall market, good luck, because it's not going to work with Amazon continuing to climb. What's Google doing? Still hovering around that neck of the woods. What's Meta doing? Climbing higher. Broadcom, how are you doing today? Not too bad. So yeah,
It was negative earlier.
It's nice. Yeah, it's a nice recovery here on the day, we should say.
I'm assuming that was the AMD news that probably sent that down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's still below the pre-market zones here, but at the end of the day, if these big boys are slowly...
Have you been looking at the daily? Sorry to interrupt
On
you, but
Broadcom?
yeah, look at the 50 rejection. Do you have the EMAs up on your thing?
No, man.
Okay, let me show it, because to me, Broadcom has just been rejecting the 50 over, and look at how the 50 was support for Broadcom on the way up. Now it's the exact opposite. Now it's basically using the 50, the red as resistance. Look at this, Joey.
Yeah.
Support, 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 breakdown, resistance, resistance all throughout. So the 50 here seems to be operative as a bit of a price top on Broadcom. And yeah, you know, that you could look at it that way. I see it a bit consolidative too, kind of hovering in the mid 300s. But Broadcom is definitely something that I'm looking at for the longer term, especially adding into this one. I haven't added in a while on Broadcom. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, that's all right, man. Pull up the super chat. Sharif, mind reviewing Tesla.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Guys, IOVA is making a move here into that 380. Let's see if we can clear 380 here. What do we have on? We have 74s. Let's see if we can kind of get above that double top that we put in earlier. But let's have a look at Tesla, because I've seen better charts. At least we're back above 400. Yeah, I see all these memes making fun of Tesla, saying, oh, if you got in, what's it called, in 2021, you're basically at the same price. Yeah, if you got in at the high in November, is that November? Yeah, no, January of 2021, yeah, you're definitely still basically flat. So this is the weekly, and that's kind of why I pulled that up. Wow, this has been a range, eh? When you look at it at the weekly, look at Tesla on the weekly. This is 2020 over here. This is May 2020. So let's just go from here. That's about 300 bucks. We get to that in January of 2021. This is November of 2021. And that was when we got to 400, and we're still struggling with that 400 level. So that's the weekly. Let's go to the daily. Certainly support at 400. You see that over here. Back in November, we dropped off. We didn't spend too much time below 400, and you see bottoming tail candles as well, which means buyers were stepping in quite aggressively there. You know, it's more of a prolonged downtrend after that 500 touch that we got earlier, I think, later in the year. I would look for a downtrend break. Tesla's a hard one for me to kind of to look at, because it's just so range bound. With me, I don't even look at my Tesla position. I've been in Tesla for years, and I haven't added nor removed from Tesla. So I don't really have a good read, I gotta tell you, to be honest with you, Nick, when it comes to Tesla, other than to say 400 is a repeat offender level as support. Whether or not it holds up and holds up well this time, we've breached through it, again, as you can see, back on the 5th of February, and again on the 6th we recovered. We were down below it again, but we're still putting in lower highs, and that's what's obvious to me here. We really haven't caught a different trend like we did, say, from late November to the highs that we put in late December. There's nothing like that to speak of here. So a breach below the 5th low, the February 5th, the low of which is 387.53, probably sets us on more of a downtrend. Now, it does look like it's coming into the 200. Now, the 200 EMA and SMA are basically at the same price. The EMA is at 394 1/3. The SMA is about 390. The purple is the SMA. The blue is the EMA. So let's see if it finds support in and around there. But, you know, when you look at the moving averages on Tesla, they're just all but useless. And that's what happens with moving averages when you are caught in a consolidation. And it doesn't look like a consolidation on the daily, but when you look at the weekly, it certainly is a consolidation. They're all but useless. And that's one of the first things you learn about moving averages in John J. Murphy's book, is that, you know, you really shouldn't be looking for crossovers during periods of consolidations, because you're going to get false crossovers all the time. Joey, ETSA is making a move back up over here. It looks like it may be finding some support. What I'm not seeing, though, is a decided higher low, a higher high trend. You're seeing some higher lows, which is great, but you're not seeing higher highs. So I'm going to pack the patience. I want to get back on ETSA over here. It's got a bull flag pattern from the breakout, I want to say at around 11:15. That's the second bull flag, mind you. I'm going to wait to see if we can get above 160 before I get back into this one. What? But IBRX up again, Newsmax? You like that Newsmax, huh?
Yeah. What's going on over there?
I don't know, bro. IBRX is making a move into the high of day 11:59. That's the high of the day. Just got into it right now. So directional. Again, no money fills since the one we talked about at 11:55. IBRX just continues to put in higher highs, man. Very, very strong. Up 17 2/3 here. We'll keep an eye out on that one. But there goes ETSA into 160. Into 160 it goes. So it is breaking trend here. Let's give this a try. We're going to give it to the break of 150, so we will risk on this one about 10 pennies. And I'm going to add. If it continues to go, I'm not going to add on the dips, but if it breaks up and starts continuing to move up, I'm going to add for a possible break into 170. So I'm packing the patience, looking for a move on ETSA, Joey.
All right, good look, guys. Let's get right into the top performing sectors here today and see what we got going on. We have the tech sector leading the way, folks, up 1.5% here. We're going to head over to the daily then. We'll take a look at what we got going on with everything else. Consumer discretionary sitting in that second place, 1.4%. And then we have industrial sitting in that third, and that show money and materials in that fourth slot. So getting a good participation trophy on that one, up 0.7%. As for the bottom three, real estate, healthcare, and energy, respectively down positive 0.14, then we're healthcare down about 1/5, and then we have the energy sector down about 0.5%. Now moving forward, let's take a look at some of the earnings reports for after the bell today. We have AMC, okay? So there is a meme name for everyone. AMC, let's see what we got going on. Mercado Libre, Cabot Sciences, Zeta. Someone was talking about that not too long ago. Workday, Tempest AI, HP, Navitas as well. So a lot going on. But I think Wednesday is when we really get some good potentials. HUD 8, TJX, we like this in the morning, and then NVDA, the Trade Desk, Salesforce, Snowflake, IonQ, Synopsys. I really like that Wednesday after the close. With that being said, let's take a look at some of the expected moves here on that star-studded lineup that we got going on with Wednesday afternoon. We're going to kick things off with the king of the chips, and that's going to be Jensen & Company, NVDA. Let's pull this up and see what we have from an expected move standpoint. And here it is, guys. Leading into that report, 7.5%. with a high of around 207 and a low of around 178, okay? Moving forward, let's take a look at some of the other names. Oh, this isn't what we wanted to do. Not down. Why is software not down? Claude taking some, yeah, maybe potentially. So let me zoom out here once again. We're gonna head over to TTD, the trade desk. Let's see what we got going on. So continuous sliding here, but what we're looking at is a 13.5% expected move, a high of 27.87 and a low of around 21.24. So that's a good range that we can work with. Now, Mark Benioff and Company, Salesforce, how much lower can how low can you go? Here on Salesforce, well, what the options market is telling us, Sharif, is that we can head to a low of potentially $167 if we do exceed our expected move of 9.9%. But we can also bounce up to $203 on CRM. Snowflake. What has it been up to? Not performing relatively well. Yeah, it's absolutely been flaking, that's for sure. Falling from the sky, just like snowflakes themselves. Here it is, a high of a potential 182.68 and 141 as the low, a 12.6% expected move. Now we're gonna head over to the quantum space, a space that I'm not gonna say it.
Don't do it, Joey.
I'm not gonna say it. 10.9%. We're gonna do that for sure, Sharif. 10.9%. You know what the boy typically says, Sharif?
Yes, sir.
It sucks to suck. And something that sucks right now is IonQ. And so does my intraday trading on today's session, but that's only one day. Tomorrow's a brand new one. And we still have plenty of time. A high of $34.48, 10.9% expected move. 27.71 as a potential low. Adara, what do you have for us?
What I have here is a story on Pfizer PFE. I'm just seeing apparently the FDA granting traditional approval to their encorafenib for metastatic colorectal cancer. Well, sorry, colorectal cancer. So FDA granting traditional approval to a treatment of metastatic colorectal cancer for Pfizer PFE. Back to you.
Yes, it's D-Wave, I believe. Yeah, D-Wave, guys, we have Thursday morning, okay? This is going to be a good one, with a high of around 12.6% expected move and a low of $15.96 and a high of $20.57. And then we'll take a look at a couple more, and that's going to be CoreWeave after the bell on Thursday, CRWV.
Oh, one day after Nvidia, huh?
One day.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I mean, whoa, what a coincidence there. It's 14.1% expected move, $109.67 as that high, and $82 as a potential low. So a nice variance there. Let's see if we can breach that.
So Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather want to fight again.
I've seen that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
I thought he was going to fight Tyson. I was so confused when I saw the Pacquiao thing. I'd rather the Pacquiao fight than the Tyson fight. That doesn't make any sense. The dude's a welterweight.
You know what
all his life. The other dude's that former heavyweight champion. That's a dumbass fight.
Let me put it. Let me. But the Pacquiao Mayweather.
No,
too? You don't want to see that. Nobody.
I do want to. I'd rather see that over Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that I look at it is Floyd's done the same thing for essentially how many wins, professional wins does he have? 50 something.
Yes.
I don't think
50
the narrative. Yeah, 50. I think 51 maybe or whatever it may be, but 50 whatever. I don't think he's going to do anything different. I think it's going to be the exact same outcome as the previous 50 fights.
I think that Pacquiao could clip him now because you know what they say, strength is the last thing to go. Ed says going, guys, strength is the last thing to go, but speed's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
So his defense may not be as good, but Pacquiao may have the power in his hands. I'm just theorizing.
And I know you're there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going on the fact that I don't think this fight is going to be any different than his previous 51s. He's going to out-defend defensively,
Fair.
right?
I don't
He's
blame
going to shoulder
you for
roll.
that,
He's got the Philly shell. And you know
shell.
what? Shout out to Floyd, though, because I don't think there's anybody as dedicated to their craft as Floyd Mayweather was in his prime.
Oh, God, yeah.
He didn't drink. He didn't do anything. He would run home from the clubs. And I think that was something
And he was at the club all the time.
All the time.
And
but guess
didn't
what?
drink.
He would run home. Right? Like, who was doing that,
Yeah, you
right?
gotta give him credit for that, bro.
I have to give him credit for that. He has a little bit of a spending problem, obviously.
And that's why he's fighting.
Let's
just cut the crap.
And you know what's funny? I was going to say,
the way he's living, you need constant paychecks.
Constant. And I was making a joke about it. I was like, this just in, Floyd Mayweather claims that he's going to make $250 million on this Pacquiao 2 fight, which is no.
I ain't paid for that.
No,
I
one's
promise
paying for
you that
I can
paid
promise
for
you
it,
that.
yeah.
I don't even watch it. I'm not intrigued by that fight. The only reason why he's fighting is because he needs the money.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, but you got right to the point pretty quickly there. All right, guys, Ed says making a move. I added a couple of times. I added when it was moving up. Like I said, we didn't add on the dips. Looking for this one to breach 70, just touched 70 again, so this could be a double top. We touched 70 at 12 o'clock, and we just touched it right now at 12:50 on the 5-minute candle. Down into 65 we go, and here it comes. So this could be a double top. Let's see exactly whether the shorts are going to muscle the longs over here into that 170 area. I'm all ears, all eyes, all ears. Also holding on still to my position here on IOVA, and there it goes. A couple of pennies below the high of the day now. IOVA took out prior double top. The double top at 12 and 12.05 on the 5s, taking that out. Now we're 3 pennies away from the high of the day. And I added a lot more shares on this one than I did on EDSA, because the EDSA chart is not ideal. Sorry, give me a sec here to put in 85 when we want 88s as well. So let's see if we can test the high of the day. It's 86. I put one beak wetter just below the high of the day at 85 so it can fill there. Let's see what we get. There's 83. Let's see if there's continuation into 85. Good strength here on IOVA, up 32%, done 50 million shares, 1 penny spread. So not very little to complain about. But I can complain about this, though. I promise you I can find something to complain about. My lack of trading on IBRX. This thing is a dang buy program that won't get shut off. Look how clean IBRX is here, man. And every time I say to myself, oh, just wait for the dip into the 10 EMA, and then I digress and I don't put it on. Anyway, up 19%, very strong, 1171 high, 1150 is the 10 EMA on the 5. So look out for a possible retracement into there. That's what I'll be looking for. I'm not going to give up a possible trade on it. Let's keep an eye on that one. Hangry Wife, look at OWL, not small cap gapper, but steady ascent. Say less. I think we did look at Blue Owl the other day. Blue Owls had, they've seen better days.
I think they got a downgrade today.
Yeah, well, you would know, right? That's your world now. Yeah, that's a hell. Do you see Heady and shoulders there? Head, shoulders?
Oh, yeah.
That's a clear one. Look at that neckline.
That's
right there.
That's textbook right there,
that's
my
textbook. Boy. And there's the head and shoulders pattern on Blue Owl.
No, I haven't seen, sorry to interrupt you, I haven't seen Gorv in the past couple of days, Lost.
Where has he been?
I don't know, we got to
So Joey, let's do it live like this. We're gonna use our Finabachis, right? All right, so from this, there's the breakout. Let's put from the head there we go. So then we can kind of project that down. Did we get to there from the neckline? So my bias is neckline is around 16. We got to 10s. High was 27. That's $11 worth of range. No, so, well, we still have a bit more to go. We could see probably 8s if all is said and done, maybe below 10. But let's look at the 5-minute here. On. Oh, very clean, intraday anyway. Obviously not a great looking daily chart, but intraday it's very clean. I have a bias, probably 11 resistance, right? And we're not that far away from it. 1088. Shout out to Hangry Wife. Good call for an intraday trade here on Blue Owl Capital. Thank you for that. I also want to, I forget who it was who mentioned this one. WULF is looking real good. Another non-small cap gapper, but one that is making the move. There it is into 1760 high a day, bull flag number 1. And then we don't get the second bull flag, but we do get an upward channel. So good look right now on WULF. I would trade this as a range until it decisively breaks above the upper trend line. My entries would be, just right around that 10 EMA with my stop below the 20, because the 10 and the 20 are awfully close here. So you're getting money fills between them, but I wouldn't allow it to kind of go against me below the 20. There it goes into more high days. So WULF here up 12.25 on the day, looking fantastic. We're going to keep an eye out on this one. And there goes IOVA. We're going to wet the beak into the high. No, it's not the high of the day. That's 86s. It's showing 85s, but we are 1 penny off that high a day. IOVA could get resistance here or could encounter resistance. It topped out at 84s at 1035. We were just at 85s. And then we have the double top at 945 and 950, the high of which was 86. And that's why I had a bias that there would be an 86 sell. So IOVA looking real good, but we're definitely getting into that area where we could encounter some trouble. We're taking profits along the way. What do we have on this? 74 is not a bad look. Could have done a little bit better on the price, but that's all right. EDSA coming back down now. What I want to see, does it breach prior bar low? So prior bar low is 160. Okay, I don't want this to breach prior bar low, and there it is. It's breaching prior bar low. That's going to be my out on this one. I'm worried about a possible double top. There was a whole bunch of selling at 170, not just once, twice, but OB, he is the one thrice. There was a lot of selling at 170. You want to, if we can shake the sellers at 170, I'll get back in, but I'm not going to be the one, trying to fight that battle. No, thank you. IOVA looks great for continued. For really respecting the 50. Shout out to Nick Dubb. Thanks for that observation. Grunfeld says Figma, 2 times bull, FIGG. Let's have a look at FIGG. We're going to start the news soon, guys. I just realized it's 1 o'clock, but let's have a quick look here. Yeah, light volume, but a good looking bull flag. So let's just look at FIG, which is Figma. Yeah, Figma's having a decent day, man. Whoa, 9 1/3 here. A little bit more than 9 1/4. Figma's having all sorts of strength. Looking here at the blotter. I think Kathy Wood might have bought Figma. Let's have a look. Kathy Wood added to Broadcom, AMD, and Figma on Monday. So your Aunt Kathy was adding yesterday on that. Interesting take there, Kathy Wood. She bought Broadcom. Does it say how much she bought? Can look. Oh, there it is. Does it say how much she bought? I'm looking. Not immediately apparent if it says here. I can try to find out on her website, but yeah, not a bad looking chart on Figma, man. Be careful for the selling on FIG, not FIGG at 27 1/3. That is the high of the day, but you're holding the 10 EMA now, and it looks like you're getting some local resistance here at 27 1/5, but you are putting in higher lows. It's just these topping tail candles are showing you that there is a seller at about the 1/5 of a dollar. So keep an eye out for that, Joey.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I'm just pulling up our old tracker here, seeing where The boys are laying Shreve, holding on to that fifth spot. Randy coming in there hot, 8% right there. Obi still holding on to that first place spot. His Sidu space station up 41% here. Short, crazy, 41%. That's insane now. Current price at $1.99. Yeah, there's Adara as well. Boeing going to be green soon. Oracle down 30% from her entry. And then let's see what our, we're slowly sliding here, but it's CrowdStrike. It's CrowdStrike doing us a little dirty, guys. Aside from that, I'm not in any positions right now. We went over our trades. I'm getting in and I'm getting out, but this is what I'm talking about. You want to short the NAS, do it at your own discretion, because you sell a little bit. You really want to get involved into the nitty-gritty and get as detailed as you possibly can with really precise entries and stops, because you grind lower for approximately however long this is, 15 minutes or so, and in the span of a couple, the volume kicks right in, and then boom, you're right back towards the high of the day, having a bad time as a short seller on the TQQs. Sometimes you just got to understand that there's a time and a place to short this bad boy. It will sucker you in. It will do that all the time, Sharif. It'll just drag you in. It'll say, hey, man, look at me. I'm over here. I look like a potential short. But meanwhile, what's really under the hood is that you have Apple. Guess what?
What?
Heading right back towards the volume-weighted average price. Microsoft, guess what? Breaking out. You guessed it. Good job. We'll hit the money on that one. Hero cookie for all who guessed that one. And then sure enough, Amazon hovering around the high of the day. You have Google moving to the top side. Amazon, back to Amazon once again. Tesla, what are you doing? Breakout there. And it's like, if you're not looking at what these individuals and these participants doing, something that is so heavily weighted in the Nasdaq, and you're trying to fade it, well, guess what? It's going to be one of those, and you're going to end up not having a good time. You know what they say when you're skiing? Don't French fry when you're supposed to pizza. Okay, and with that being said, you got to be looking forward. There goes MSTR bouncing off that $124 mark. IonQ, what are you up to? Breaking through the volume-weighted average price. Going to my boy CrowdStrike all the way down to $350, down 35 or 25% from my entry price. Good relationship we have going on right now. Zscaler continuing to slide, but a nice bull flag being formed here. APLD was having a strong session, Sharif, a bull flag lower end of the range, and then maybe you'll get somewhat of a test of that high of the day. SoFi, I don't know if you guys can hear the sarcasm in my voice, but it's there, and you be aware, because I am being highly sarcastic, but also trying to spit some facts as well. Coinbase not performing not too bad there. Robinhood was nice here earlier in the day. Oh wow, Robinhood. I was looking at this consolidation, but I didn't want to sway from my game plan here today. I'm like, ooh, this is a pretty good bull flag, consolidating, and then it was around $71 and $72 where I was looking to get involved, but now you get a strong recovery here in Robinhood as it heads up to 73 smackers, so not too bad of a look there whatsoever. CoinL, this is a 2x leverage, I believe, just absolutely getting wrecked. Let's head over to the daily and see what this thing was. Oh my Lanta. Like at one point, Sharif, this thing is worth $72. You're down 91%. That's why you do not own these leverage products, because you will lose absolutely everything. And an underlying, let's pull up the actual asset in itself. How much are we down? It's going to be half of that. I mean, Coinbase has been getting absolutely slaughtered. No 21 Savage there. Shout out to Adair knows what I'm talking about. Slaughter. We're not repeat that. 64%. Man, oh man. Obviously, Bitcoin and some of the other crypto names getting KO'd essentially. This is KO. These are KO below Sharif. Ethereum with a high of almost around $5,000, now trading to $1,800. I had a shower thought the other day, not like you guys cared or anything. I'm like, man, I wonder if I can get Ethereum at like $900.
Bro, you're not far away from that.
That's the thing, dude. I would not be surprised if you can pick up Ethereum in like the triple digits, like $900. We're trading at $1,900 right now. That would be a substantial haircut from where we're currently sitting at, but I would not be surprised if we continue on this trajectory. What would we be down from that? We'll go over to about $1,000.
That says breaking out,
80%.
guys.
Go ahead.
That says breaking out. There's the top break. As soon as I saw that come in, I punched, but this is really selling off now. It's a topping tail candle. Watch out for the reversion here. It's a 178 high, and now it's dipping into 167. So I was able to scalp out some, but I'm keeping a close eye on current candle low, and that's 162. Prior candle low where I currently have my stop, 158. Watching here for a possible a reversion trade. Topping tail candle starting this into 178, so fails. Let's just be honest, it failed. 170 again. If this loses current bar low, I'm out. And here it comes into 64, watching, looking to see if it's going to go red on the day or what the situation is. We got 69s. That was an aggressive breakout there, and it was super short-lived into 178. So I hope you guys were able to scalp some there if you got in. Other than that, be careful here. I'm going to give it to current bar low. Let me move up my stop. So we're going to go to do just that. And that's ETSA. There we go. Let me cancel my previous stop on that bad boy. Let's see which one it is. There it is. Good. So we'll let that one run. We'll see what we can get on this. Back into 167 over here. Let's put another profit taker just north of 70s if in case that comes in. I'm also in IBRX scalping up here. We've got 50s on. There's 58. Looking for the next one at 60, 63, 69. Looking for IBRX to hold trend, which is basically the 10 EMA on the 5. It dropped down with an aggressive red candle, caught my attention, and I did punch into this one. So we'll have a quick look there. And then also I want to mention, let's not forget, of course, about IOVA. It comes into 85 where I had my next profit taker, but it doesn't fill me there as a result of it not crossing. So we still have shares on this one. So I do want to take some out just to, de-risk a little bit. There we go. And then we can rest a little bit easier over here on that one. That's IOVA. Keeping an eye on all three. Of course, AMPA is definitely not tradable for me. Back to ETSA over here. Ugly topping tail candle, as I mentioned, but looks like we're kind of calming down. 67 now showing up on the ask side of level 2, but we're still not above 70. So unless we reclaim 70 here with some vigor, it will have been yet another failed attempt of that 70 penny level, despite the fact that we got to 78. So a bit of a tough one here. I'm going to give it to current bar low. As I mentioned, if it breaches 62, I'm out. I'm not going to DCA into this one. We're going to pack the patience. And while I pack the patience, I should say, we're going to send you guys to Adara.
I'll be brief. Just keep an eye here on META. Bloomberg Law reporting that Meta has won an investor appeal over iPhone change impact. This is a vague headline. I looked into it. This is all I'm seeing on the headline right now. Could be nothing, but just want to let you guys know there is this headline on Meta, again from Bloomberg Law, reporting that the company has won an investor appeal over, quote, iPhone change impact. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Keeping an eye on all three of the ones we just talked about there. Looking for looking for IOVA to breach prior bar high. It's still holding above the 10. Prior bar high is 59. There seems to be selling coming in at 60. But back to ETSA over here. There it is, back into 69, right? So this current candle has a lower high, but also a higher low. And you can just see the struggle between longs and shorts at the 70 penny level. For whatever reason, that's the level that they've earmarked. I'm talking about the shorts. They want to draw a line in the sand there. I mean, the higher lows are what's keeping me involved in the trade, but I'm very alive to the fact that there is a quite convicted short seller at 70, so I am kind of concerned about that. I do see rhyme, so the individual who just pointed it out in the chat, shout out to you. The same range that we talked about. I should have had more patience with this one. Basically 40 to 45 as the high, 20, at times it goes to 15 as a low. The wicks do breach those levels. They breach 40 and they breach 20, but most of the closing prints are finding some support there. So keeping an eye here on ETSA, Joey, looking for it to hold above that 62 penny level.
All right, good look there. My boy Nick Dubb in the chat is like, hey, Joe, looking for a potential short here on Meta. Yeah, you have this 5-minute candle opening at the low. You could just use it the high of the day. With this name, obviously, it's a couple points that you need to give it. But if it's going to come back into the zone, right? Okay, so that's a nice breakdown. That's essentially what you want to see. Liquidity issues a little bit here, but a nice little momentum to move to the downside. Adara, what do you have for us?
I just want to let you guys know here, this is more kind of on watch for later today, but Axios just reporting the CIA director is going to be joining U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at 3 p.m. for an Iran briefing to lawmakers. Not sure if this is going to be on camera or not, but either way, 3 p.m. power hour. Potentially keep an eye on oil as, again, Axios reporting CIA director to join U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio for an Iran briefing to U.S. lawmakers. Back to you.
That former CIA guy, John Kiriakou. I've mentioned him.
Oh, the guy who tells all the stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was saying that according to his sources, and you can make of that what you will, of course, that President Trump was planning a Monday or Tuesday, here we are on Tuesday, attack on Iran, right? Well, we'll have to wait and see how we've obviously...
They already struck their nuclear facility.
Previously, I forget the name of the operation. Yeah, but apparently, when you look at the armada they've got there, the military, it's going to be a much wider...
It's an operation.
Yeah,
I mean, they're moving some of the ships into the strategic areas.
Exactly, the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing with President Trump, bro. Unlike, I don't want to say unlike other presidents, but he has more of a market focus. So my bias was that he was probably instructing his generals to make sure that the Strait of Hormuz doesn't get shut down. So oil prices are not like at $50 a liter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see whether or not, any belligerencies happen in the first place. If they do, whether they're able to make sure the strait remains open so people can get their oil supplies. But there's a whole lot happening, man. Geopolitically, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get IBRX. I realize that the money fills are between the 10 and the 20, but if it comes back in, shows me that it's going to hold support there, I'll get back in. But I don't have to deal with this while I'm trying to do the new segment. I'm trying to hold on to ETSA because it's still holding above the 10 EMA with that 70 penny seller, and this one has shown its intensity when it breaks out above levels. So the candle at 105, the low was 62, and then it got to 78 quick as you like. So I'm going to pack the patience with that one, looking for a move here on ETSA into some highs. I'm still holding IOVA. Let me send it to you so we can start the new segment.
So what I was saying to you, Nick Dub, here is that just be cautious of the chop, right? Like, this isn't a bad play, but if you're patient enough and you can get in at the higher end of the range, that's just going to increase your risk to reward. Why? Because essentially you're not wrong. Like you mentioned it, you're not wrong until you breach that previous high. But if you can get closer and you can determine when you are wrong closer, but you can add a little bit more in size. There goes silver. I had a feeling that we weren't going to break down after this consolidation. I just wasn't going to sit through all of this chop. It was doing nothing for quite some time, and then eventually volume stepped in and it moved and put in a new high on SLV. I'm going to be keeping my eye on the Qs, but same narrative, man. It just drags you in thinking, hey, we might short in the overall market. We have a trend that's been established, and then sure enough, we have this trend line, and as soon as it's breached, then there might be an opportunity. But I have to keep an eye on so many different underlyings that the fact is like, is it really worth it? Especially if they're not all moving in tandem. So if you have one going the other way, NVDA decides to break out of that bull flag, Google does the exact same thing and climb higher, but you have a couple of them tanking. It's just like you have that push and pull effect, and you can have some misleading signals in the overall market. So there goes Meta continuing its slide. Good. I'm glad that's working out for you, Nick Dub. Broadcom, what are you up to? It's selling aggressively, so maybe that can contribute to some more selling here in the TQQs. Pan W, how have you been today? Small recovery, but then right back to the downside, and it's the exact same thing with CrowdStrike and Zscaler. They have not been performing very well. Zscaler, one of the stronger ones on today's session, but CrowdStrike down to 349 and couldn't hold its rebound. So a really tough look in some of these cybersecurity names. Applied Digital was another strong name here today. Robinhood, DraftKings, QBT. Ooh, okay, DraftKings. Who do you think you are as you're breaking out of that $22 mark? So not a horrible look whatsoever. Oklo was in play for quite some time. How are you doing on the daily? How are you doing? Not good, that's for sure. If you don't mind me telling you, 67%. So yeah, maybe not performing as well as I thought it was. Caterpillar, an absolute dog right now, only a couple percentage points off of its previous all-time high, 2.4%. And Walmart pulling back aggressively. Let's pull up Walmart here momentarily before Sharif gets into his what is it, news there? Very difficult word I was looking for. 6% off of its highs.
6%. For Walmart?
Walmart. Yeah.
Not bad.
No, that's light.
Yeah, absolutely. That is life. Let's get into the new segment. So Tesla continues to struggle in Europe. I mean, I don't think that surprises anybody here. Let's talk about it. It's really more about, I put these articles less to dunk on Tesla's weakness for car sales and more to really highlight the proliferation of Chinese EVs in Europe. And we joke, right? We say, you know, these Chinese EVs are like a weed, man. You throw them in and all of a sudden they're proliferating everywhere. They take over your entire garden. Tesla's European new car registrations fell 17% year over year in the entire continent. They sold 8,075 cars in the month of January. That is now 13 consecutive months of declines for Tesla in Europe, and the market share across the EU, the United Kingdom, and Switzerland and Norway, as well as Iceland, dropped to 0.8% market share. They previously had 1%. So it's not like they were, you know, double digits or anything like that, but a notable drop nonetheless. All the while, Chinese EV makers, specifically BYD, posted 165% year-over-year surge in European registrations. They registered in the month of January 18,242 cars, so 10,000 essentially, more than Tesla. Their regional market share also popped, man, more than doubling from 0.7% now up to 1.9%. Tesla faces, criticism for lacking a new mass market vehicle or model and really relying, according to the article, I don't happen to agree with this, relying too much on future revenue sources from autonomous and robotics. Europe is seeing increased availability of affordable EV alternatives. We're talking about, of course, MG, BYD, Zeekr. There's a lot that are going on there. A wave of first-generation Teslas as well is returning from their lease cycles, 4 to 6 years. Those are flooding the used car market, which is pressuring resale prices on the newer models, if you believe that, and not the fact that it's, you know, Europeans being none too plussed with Elon, fine. Overall, regional auto sales did decline 3.5% year over year. They sold less than 1 million cars in the entire month of January for all the jurisdictions I mentioned above, 961,000. And petrol registrations fell 26% year over year, while BEVs or EVs are up. So whether if you're looking at battery electric vehicles, 14%. Plug-in hybrids seems to be the most important category there. The market is willing to accept 32% year-over-year increase. And then hybrid electrics, they're up 6% year-over-year. So Tesla's up 1.4% today, but what do you make of this? You know what I mean?
I think it's just the continuing narrative, Sharif, to be honest with you, with Tesla just declining. I mean, we look at this name for other reasons now. As you can see, he's losing market share across the globe. You're getting those hybrids. And I'm curious, I don't think Tesla would ever go with that model. He's going to sway, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's 10 or 15 years down the road where you just extremely lose focus on the EV sector itself and just works on robotics and autonomous vehicles where he has higher margins because he's slashing the price of one of his coolest vehicles, in my opinion. And what is that going to do? It's going to reduce your margins. But we've been talking about this for quite some time now. It's just Tesla continuously losing market share in Europe and in China as well too. So I don't think that narrative is going to change anytime soon. I don't think he's going to really look into. He has the larger model in China, but other than that, I don't think he's too invested or interested in bringing out new models and
you don't feel that? No, I don't feel that at all. I feel it's autonomous, and he's focusing on robotaxi, right?
Exactly.
Robotaxi's coming out now. We saw those. Shout out to Adam James, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Adam. MACD and RSI on the QQQ daily both point up, and selling is slowing. Entire intermediate future of Qs could be based on Nvidia, in my opinion. Pivotal point at the moment here. That is a very, very good observation. You want to look at the Qs for the OG?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not going to deny the fact that NVDA is going to have an impact on its report. We've seen what we got going on. And I'm only looking at things from a technical standpoint. Could we take an additional leg higher? Absolutely. There's so many things that we have to keep into play, take into factor here. But could we take a move lower? Absolutely. There's some substantial returns from those April lows, and we haven't even really broke down yet. 49% in the span of a year. I mean, we're only down 5% off of those highs. And I'm not saying we're going to fall into a bear market. I don't know if there's enough headwinds in order for us to do so, but a lot is going to happen. And if one name is going to drag the overall market up, it's going to start with an N and end with an A. And yeah, it's this name. If it exceeds the expected move, for sure. We want to see some forecasts. We want to see that guidance on China sales if they're going to release that, which can really send this name to new heights. I know there's been $250 price targets, but this is at the forefront of the AI trade. And if we're going to continue on this trade, the AI trade, it's going to have to be led by NVDA.
Well, good point, man. Let's talk a little here. Oh, it says breaking down. That's my invitation. Let me just have a look here. It didn't stop me out. I have my stop, yeah, below that area low, but it does look like it's going to lose the bid. We'll let that resolve naturally there. Amazon, this headline I broke to you guys yesterday during the afternoon rundown, but they plan to invest $12 billion in a new AI and cloud data center campuses in Louisiana. The facilities are going to support AI workloads as well as AWS Cloud. The project is expected to create about 540 full-time data center jobs and roughly about 1,700 indirect roles, talking about electricians, HVAC, security, etc. Earlier this month, we know Amazon projected an eye-watering, and this led all Mag 7 names, eye-watering $200 billion in CapEx for the year, more than any individual hyperscaler. As I mentioned, major tech firms, though, collectively are forecasting nearly $700 billion in CapEx for the year. Most of Amazon's spending, of course, is targeting AI data centers, their chips, their networking gear, and of course, cloud infrastructure. And until after the February 5th earnings report, Amazon shares fell for 9 consecutive days, and those 9 consecutive days wiped out $450 billion in market cap. It's up today, it's up nicely, 1 4/5. It says they will pay, by the way, for this data center, because a lot it's been made about the water, the electricity usage, and how it affects local residents. Sorry, I just have to get out of my EDSA trade, which is out. They say they are going to pay 100% of the energy infrastructure costs that are tied to the Louisiana campus. They also plan to use natural air cooling when possible. They're also going to use surplus water rather than actually using, the normal water in the system. And they're going to invest up to $400 million in public water infrastructure. Sorry, Assassino, I'm not plugged in, but we're going to go to Adara at the big desk.
Keep an eye here in FOUR, that is shift for payments. Not a ton of volume on this right now, like 700,000 shares, but volume is escalating, as is price, after Michael Burry speculates here in a Substack post that shift 4 might be a better takeover target than PayPal in the same sector, saying that PayPal is, quote, just too big, and that 4 is the right size in that space. So FOUR pushing higher again. Michael Burry pausing this one as a better takeover target in the payment space than PayPal. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. What do you make of this, Joey? I do like this. Like, this is not going to affect the stock price or anything like that, but it will, number one, President Trump speaks today in the State of the Union. It's widely expected that he will address some of the increase in living costs. Part of that, of course, is going to be the energy. And energy costs have gone up, data centers, especially in certain areas. So this, kind of thing where you're paying 100% of the energy costs, you're not using new water, you're using recycled water, that gets you out of the purview of, an attack.
Exactly, and I think that's been the big worry about just the build out on these data centers and the cloud infrastructure and the AI infrastructure is being on the grid and then causing the residents to have an increase in money. So, and that's why we like Caterpillar, because they can essentially take you off that and build one. But as for Amazon taking care of, taking in all of those costs, taking on all of those costs, not too bad. But the way that I look at this, Sharif, is we expect $200 billion in CapEx, or was it $700 billion in CapEx, altogether $200 billion coming from Amazon. I like this because what is this telling me? That these companies are too big and too smart to spend this money and then not eventually see a return on investment. So this is just a continuous build out of Amazon Web Services, in my opinion, and I really like that for the long term.
All right, great point. Let's talk about this one. This is about Nvidia, but it's more about DeepSeek. Of course, Nvidia does report after the bell tomorrow, so make sure to catch that with us on the Market Recap Show. We're going to have that live, obviously, but this is an interesting development. It gives you, a deeper picture into the sort of AI war between the U.S. and China. So a senior Trump administration official said the Chinese startup known as DeepSeek trained its latest AI model on Nvidia's most advanced chips. So of course, we are talking about the Blackwell. The U.S. believes that the chips, Blackwell specifically here, are kind of hidden in some data center in Inner Mongolia. The officials speaking under, they didn't release who the person was. The official suggested DeepSeek could actually be able to remove technical indicators that people would be able to find in the LLM, in the DeepSeek LLM, that would tie it to having been trained by NVIDIA's Blackwell, so that they can kind of hide the fact that they have Blackwell. That is the report there. Also, a lot of allegations have been made against DeepSeek and how they were able to train their system. Recall, this is not new. When they came out originally, I think about a year and change ago, and everyone was wondering how they trained their model so well, a lot of accusations at the time were coming out that DeepSeek was using a process called distillation. Distillation is essentially when you create these thousands and thousands and thousands of accounts that ping or send requests to, say, OpenAI's ChatGPT. In this case, they're saying that they did it with Claude. And so they ask Claude like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of questions, and they get the responses to those questions. And then off that information, they train their model. So they're not actually training their model organically. They're using a process called distillation. Whether you believe that or not, if that makes a difference to you, this is kind of what's being reported here. But the way that I look at this story is this reignites the beef between the China hawks and the tech bros. The China hawks, they want nothing being sent to China. They want to be at a complete competitive advantage. They don't want the Chinese having access to these advanced chips, whether it's Blackwell or the H200. They don't make a difference. They don't want China getting them. The tech bros are like, no, we got to sell them our best technology. We need to get the world addicted, hooked on American tech.
On American technology.
This kind of throws the ball a little bit when you say, in the Hawk score, the China Hawk score is going to be like, see, we told you so. Look at this. They're already getting Blackwell. They got their hands on Blackwell. You need to tighten up control on NVIDIA. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you there, Sharif. It's interesting, and we've seen the effect that the DeepSeek news initially had on NVDA when it first came out. I believe it was in the middle of the summer or just at the beginning of the summer last year. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. Sharif, I'm going to send it off to you. I'm in a position right now.
All right, brother.
See if I can manage this here.
Let's talk a little AMD. Sorry about the background noise, guys. We're just doing a fire test in the building here. Hopefully, it'll just be quick. So AMD, as we brought you the story in the morning, AMD and Meta tying the deal here, and that's caused AMD up 10% on the day. So they're collaborating, AMD that is, collaborating with Meta to deploy up to 6 gigawatts of AMD Instinct AI chips. We'll get to that in a second. But this represents one of the largest AI infrastructure commitments announced to date. So initial deployment will use custom AMD Instinct MI450 GPUs, the ones that Joey was super gung-ho about. But they're also going to use the EPYC CPU. So it's going to be the full stack server, right? And the full stack server by AMD is called a Helios. Shipments for the first gigawatt deployment will begin early this year, and AMD issued, more on this in a second, but AMD issued Meta what they're calling a performance-based warrant for up to 160 million AMD shares, and those are tied to specific GPU shipment milestones. So I did a little bit more research on this, so let's get down to that research. So watch this. So this is all performance-based. So the way that they set it up was by issuing performance-based warrants for up to 160 million shares at a strike price of 1 penny, so basically nominal, AMD is essentially offering Meta a potential for 10% ownership. That doesn't include future dilution, but based on the current share. 10% ownership stake in AMD for buying about 6 gigawatts. But those are all going to be tied in to performance milestones. So you get certain amount of shares for the first gigawatt, a certain amount of shares for the second, the third, etc. And then what does that have as an effect on Meta's relationship with NVIDIA? well, they're going to be more incentivized to buy AMDs because they're going to get ROI on their investment. So that's the handcuffing argument here. So by giving Meta a path to 10% ownership, AMD has effectively turned its biggest customer into its biggest cheerleader. The effect of that is every time Meta chooses AMD chips over Nvidia's, they are just saving money because they're cheaper. They're potentially increasing the value of those 160 million shares that they have vis-a-vis warrants. So it's a skin in the game argument here. So you got to like that from Meta's perspective. I question it though from Lisa Su's perspective. You're giving up so much of the company's, market share here just to get a client on board. I don't know if that's worth the trade. You guys could have a different opinion about that. What's your take there, Joey?
Sorry, Sharif, I'm still sitting in this position.
Okay, brother. All right, so let's go on to the next story. Let's talk about Bitcoin dropping quite aggressively here. Fell more than 5%. Let's look at where it's at right now. Well, it's almost back to 65,000. It was below that this morning. It did break below 63 before stabilizing. The decline, again, is being framed as a macro-driven risk asset, risk-off kind of trade. I disagree with that. Analysts are characterizing the move as a tactical de-risking, suggesting investors are trimming exposure to volatile assets. Again, I don't feel that way. I just think it's, a technical correction. President Trump there's also geopolitical issues that are causing trouble here. President Trump signaled a potential decision within 10 days on a possible military action against Iran, and markets are interpreting this as a tightening of the financial conditions and leading to the risk-off environment. Cryptocurrencies, this specific one is down about 27% year to date and 50% off its October highs. But as we were talking about yesterday, if you have the bias that I have, this bias now, that, let's load up BTC, that we're going to correct about 70%, well, then that's going to take us down into about mid-30s. So if we take from the 126 high and we drag that bad boy down to about 70%, we're talking about a $37,000 level where we could find support. So where am I getting the 70% thing? All I'm going to say to you is, if you've got access to a chart and these exactly. Go to look at 2023 and the drawdown from the 2013. Go look at the drawdown from the 2013 high. Go look at the drawdown from the 2018 high. Go look at the drawdown from the 2021 high. It was Obi actually that pointed this out to me.
Draw that one over.
So there's the double top there. That's from 68.3. And into the low,
what was that?
78%. Okay? That's just the way it is, bro.
Well, how about this one? How much was that one?
Well, this one starts at 19.
No,
so.
this second one, where we rebound, what was that pullback there around?
Probably a little bit less, 50% or so, 50%.
Yeah. But even so, 50% is not fun.
It's no, of course, yeah. We're already past 50%, Joe.
Yeah, we're way past
We're past 50% now. So, if we're looking at 50, we're at 50 right now. I've got a bias that we go to 70, right? If we go to 70, I'll be a buyer there as well. But it's just about being strategic in where you're buying. Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, I sit in the same boat as you, Sharif. Yeah. From a percentage metric, I have no idea where this thing is going to stop. So what I have to do is just kind of go in the back pocket and think, hey, what can we see and what can we have been continuously expecting here in Bitcoin? And that's it, forming a consolidative base. You have your trend lines established, and then once you're on the backside of things is when you really want to start to engage. But one thing I will note, Sharif, is that we didn't come out, the IBIT, you don't go from being one of the best ETF successful launches of all time to nobody wanting the thing anymore, right? I don't think that's necessarily the case. And we also have to take into consideration for every seller, there's somebody buying this stuff, right? So you have the opposite end of that, and who is buying it? And I was watching something a while ago before we experienced this deeper pullback, is that the institutions are actually starting to slowly allocate this thing, right? Quietly, behind the scenes. But that's what you expect, because why would they want to pay the premium of 100,000 or 126,000? So when you have all of these whales distributing their Bitcoin holdings that they've been in for X amount of time since it started or whatever, to 5-10 years it may be, you're going to start to see some selling. But it just started to really amplify and pick up. But I'm going to stick on the narrative that we're going through a tough phase, we're going through a pullback phase, but there's people on the opposite end of this purchasing Bitcoin.
Well said.
We don't necessarily have a use case for it right now, other than the fact that like we're classifying it as store value, which is totally fine. But it's the technology behind it. Now there is better tech like the Ethereum blockchain, but just because there's a finite amount of this stuff, I think we're going to fall back into the realm of, hey, just be patient. We're going through the typical volatility within Bitcoin, and then eventually we might, and hopefully we do see a rebound. It's just going to take a lot longer than what we're anticipating. We're only in year 2 of the halving cycle, right? We got a couple more years before we lead into that neck of the woods, and this is what we typically see as well.
Oh, bang on, bang on. Let's talk about Home Depot. Not a bad report for them today. I mean, they beat on expectations. Where are they at? They're up 2% more, 2.14. They're breaking down below VWAP though. Let's talk about this report. So fiscal Q4 revenue came in at 38.2. The street was looking for 38.12. So a beat on the top line. How about the bottom line? Well, almost a 20 penny beat, 18 pennies per share. They beat 272. The street wanted 254. So check, beat on the top and bottom line. That's kind of where the good news ends. I don't want to say it ends, but there's some silver lining. Well, not silver lining, some caveats here. Revenue did decline 4% year over year, but the company's blaming that to one fewer fiscal week this year than there was last year. Net income also fell from $3 billion last year down to 2.57. CFO Richard McPhail described the U.S. as being sort of in a frozen housing environment for 3 years. He blames higher rates, lower housing turnover, and affordability concerns for some of the reason that headline number isn't accelerating like it was. Comparable sales did finally rise 0.4% year over year. That's in the U.S. Transactions fell, though, right? 1.6% year over year, but the average ticket did rise 2.4%. So people are spending a little bit more, but the actual quantity of transactions fell. Do-it-yourself demand, though, that still remains weak. A couple of reasons for that. People aren't moving into new homes, so they're not really renovating. And the ones who are living in the same home, a lot of them renovated during COVID when they didn't really have money to do anything else other than stay at home. So the renovations have been done, or people are just not moving into homes that need to be renovated. So the do-it-yourselfers still not there. But the pro customer, and we heard about this in their last report, and even the one before that, they're really focusing now more on the pro customer, the contractors, the carpenters, people who do this professionally rather than the do-it-yourselfers. It seems to be a strategy that they're employing with, I guess, varied levels of success. What's their full year outlook look like? 2026 total sales are expecting that top line number to grow by 2.5% to 4.5% for the full year, with comparable sales flat to 2%. That's the guide. We're talking about the guide here. With adjusted EPS, are saying going to be roughly flat to about 4% up from the prior year of $14.65. Last but not least, Joey, the tariffs and the cost pressures on this, because a lot of the stuff they bring in is from overseas. That's one way to look at it, or you can look at it as 50% of their merchandise is actually sourced from the United States, and no single country, according to this report, represents more than 10% of imports. So there's no concentration risk outside the United States. That's a pretty good tactical move here. But they say they're still assessing the impact of tariffs, and they're citing uncertainty around the final language and enforcement. I wonder if they'll be one of those ones who sue for the return of the tariffs. We know FedEx is going to, Costco is going to, some others as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we know from a couple of reports ago as well, too, Shreve, they're looking to diversify more, so they didn't lean on one country too much, which obviously during the tariff tantrum, they didn't want to take on too many extra costs. That being said, you mentioned obviously the pro doing it better than the DIY, but one thing that I want to note is that digital sales are also increasing 11% in Q4, so with buyer-to-buyer online outpacing overall digital sales. So I mean, that's good. That's what you want to see. And the diversification is extremely important, so you're not getting everything hit on the head. It's like what we've seen in Walmart. Everything is being assembled in America. So it reduces that tariff exposure.
There you go. Let's talk a little hims and hers. They reported earnings after the bell yesterday. Let's see where they're at. They're down 1.5%. They were down substantially more. So not a bad look there. From the closing print yesterday to the low this morning, they were down over, and they are SSR. Wow, what a recovery here for HIMS, man. HIMS I think it's green on the day. Hold on, let me just double check this because the ticker is telling me one thing. HIMS is up 2.25%. This thing was SSR, and now it's up 2.25%. Okay, good look for HIMS. EPS 7 pennies. The street wanted 2, a 5-penny beat there, and that 5-penny beat represents a 227% beat. Not bad. Compare that though to 11 pennies they took home last year on the quarter, and that year-over-year decline is pretty notable. Over the last 4 quarters as well, HIMS has topped EPS estimates twice, so they're batting 500. Q4 revenue, 617 million, beating the 616.5 expected by the street, and the year-over-year growth from $481 million top line last year. Not a bad look there. Revenue beats have occurred in 2 of the last 3 quarters, so that top line they're batting 667. Shares though are down, at least at the time of the writing of this article, about 52% year to date. The current consensus for the next quarter, they're guiding 13 pennies on revenue of 645 million, with their full year expectations being 55 pennies on 2.73 billion. Not a bad look here, Joey, but as we've seen, the companies ran into a lot of problems trying to copy these GLP-1s and market
it's
them.
funny, they're still advertising it on like Snapchat and social media.
They are?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I see.
Do you get it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Crazy stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on here. 2026 guidance, 2.7 billion to 2.9 billion, looking at or implying a 15 to 24% year-over-year growth, which isn't horrible. Adjusted EBITDA, 300 million to 375, approximately 11 to 13% margin at midpoint. Right. So there's some positivity going on, but what we have going on under the hood, Shreve, isn't good. Mimicking these drugs, it's going to cost them a lot of money in the near future.
What do you think generally about these companies that you can get prescription drugs from kind of like just through the mail? You know, you meet...
I think it's good. I don't mind the telehealth.
You like that?
I don't mind the telehealth, right?
I don't mind it either.
I don't mind the telehealth.
But like, see, remember that point I was trying to make last time? Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit. Let's send it to Adara, see what her opinion is on HIMS.
With HIMS here with HIMS and hers, it's nothing like massive. It's just a little brief thing I wanted to show you guys that I made up here. It's just a look at their fiscal 2025 revenue, just kind of broken down. So how much of it is in the US, how much of it in the rest of the world, and then how much of this is online versus wholesale. As you can see, like the vast majority of their revenue for fiscal 2025 was online revenue, but with the rest of the world revenue, it's interesting, and I don't remember what the number was for this for the entire fiscal year, but for Q4, rest of world revenue grew by like over 800% year over year. So I think even though obviously it's a much smaller portion of revenue compared to that US revenue, we're keep an eye on this rest of world region because it seems to be growing quite quickly. And I think especially compared to like the chunk that wholesale makes up versus online, this rest of world section, maybe not something to mess with HIMS going forward.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a little Keurig Dr. Pepper. They reported this morning. Let's see where they're at. KDP. They're positive, 3 2/3, not a bad look. EPS adjusted, beating the expectations by analysts by a penny, 60 versus 59. Revenue, 4.5 billion, beating the 4.36. So an easy beat on the top and bottom line there. The quarter apparently showed steady demand across the different beverage items that they have, with performance strong enough to slightly outperform consensus as we saw. The beat comes though in a consumer environment where staples naming are being rewarded for consistency in pricing discipline, okay? Full year 2026 guide, they're guiding about 26 billion, give or take, 25.9 to 26.4, with the street consensus was listed at 17.19, likely reflecting a structural shift from the JD, okay, because they had that acquisition, that JDE Pete's contribution. Probably that's why the top line number is a lot higher. Guidance implies meaningful growth and signals confidence in both organic trends and strategic execution, and that's what we're talking about there. The incremental contribution from JDE Pete's beats, assuming an early April close, is embedded in their forward guidance. So that's why they're guiding substantially higher than what the street was looking for. But this is assuming, of course, that it all goes hunky-dory and they close in April, guys. They're also guiding low double-digit adjusted EPS growth for the full year. They're citing a combination of organic growth as well as operational leverage and the strategic integration to JDE Peets as well, Joey. So KDP, not one that we often look at, but hey, man, $42 billion market cap, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been on a nice run. We've seen that in the likes of Pepsi and QQQ as well, so not too bad whatsoever. If we're going to be looking at things from the beginning of the, or later in the start of the year, the later of last month, up 20% almost, 17.75. So not too bad of a look at Keurig Dr. Pepper here today. Sure.
All right, let's go on to the next topic, guys. Intel, Samba Nova, they bet. All right, so Intel is investing in AI chip startup Samba Nova as a part of a $350 million funding round, which is expanding the relationship between the two companies, which began in 2019. The companies entered a multi-year collaboration with Samba Nova, agreeing to adopt Intel server CPUs as well as its GPUs in its system. Funny enough, people don't know that Intel does make GPUs, but not on the scale, of course, of Nvidia. They will jointly work on sales and marketing to accelerate AI infrastructure. And Intel had actually previously explored acquiring Samba Nova for about $1.6 billion, but the talks collapsed earlier this year. Nvidia, as we know, remains the dominant AI chip supplier. Their Blackwell B200 system currently defined, the high end, but Intel's revenue has declined now for 4 consecutive years, which really does underscore the urgency of gaining AI market share, hence the possible tie-up here. Stocks up, though. Let's put some respect on this one's name, up 75%. We're talking about Intel. In the past year, it's of course been aided by U.S. government investments and strategic investments from the likes of Nvidia as well. So what's so good about this Samba Nova company? Why is Intel looking to collaborate with them? Well, they introduced this new SN50 chips, which they claim delivers higher performance than Nvidia's B200 GPU. That's the dual, by the way. The B200 is the dual GPU at a similar cost. That's a statement right there to say that you can take on the king there. The architecture supports scaling up to 256 interconnected processors. SoftBank will actually deploy this SN50 chip, and they're already a customer. And we know SoftBank, of course, a customer of Nvidia's, but they sold their entire Nvidia position late last year. Samba Nova's clients include Hugging Face, which is a major AI, I think they're a startup, Meta, and other major AI labs. And just so you know, there was some sort of, relationship between Lip-Bu and Samba Nova. He was the chairman. He has been chairman of Samba Nova since 2017. His venture firm, Walden International, was an early investor in Samba Nova, but Intel stated that he recused himself from collaboration discussions to avoid conflict of interest concerns. Intel.
Yeah, I mean, with Intel, it's interesting. But as for this Samba Nova, Sharif, to say you're going to compete and challenge them, I think that's extremely interesting. I stood on the fact that, regardless of who you are, I think NVIDIA has such a great head start on everyone. It's going to be tough playing catch-up. But, I mean, not too bad Lip-Bu getting involved here, trying to compete. That's what you want to see. But as for Intel, as soon as that government took the stake, I had a strong hunch that this thing was going to continue to climb higher, and it has been. It performed well in the latter half of last year. Lip-Bu, I don't even think he's had a full year or getting close to being in a full year as the CEO. He's had 3 quarters, maybe close to 4 at this point. I think he's on the right trajectory, and it started off with that government investment.
Let's look at this SN50 chip here, Joey. Let's have a look at this thing. Samba Nova. Yeah, we can show this Assassino. Okay. So this is the website. This is what they're claiming is as good as the GB200. I mean, that's a statement, man. That's a statement. I don't even think AMD says their MI450 is as good. But hey, what do I know? Let's go on to the next story. ASML, one of my favorite stocks. Where are they at? Okay, they're flat on the day. I think they touched 15 hundos this morning, though. So ASML, we told you about this story yesterday, but we didn't really dive deep into it. They unveiled a new EUV, extreme ultraviolet lithography. light source enhancement that increases the power inside its EUV lithography machines. The upgrade could lift semiconductor output by as much as 50% by the end of the decade. That's not too far. This is being reported by Reuters. EUV machines, if you don't know, they are essential for the cutting-edge chips that Nvidia, AMD, and everybody else makes, making this a strategic bottleneck technology. Their systems are already being used by like literally everybody, TSM, Intel, Samsung. It reinforces the near monopoly that this company has. But if you're a near monopoly, you are susceptible to headline risk, and that's something that I'm acutely aware of. So the CEO said customers have expressed stronger confidence in medium-term demand, especially tied to AI-driven chip expansion. That had been the issue with ASML going into last year, right? Because there was concerns that, the chip demand wasn't as aggressive as, some were making it to be. Technologist Martin van der Brink noted new systems retain the same collector customer experience, but with enhanced performance. And ASML, as we talked about, I think it's up over 100% in the past year. Yeah, 101% in the past year, outperforming, of course, the broader semiconductor interest. Joey, ASML.
Yeah, interesting here. I'm just reading some just kind of like the segments and everything along those lines. There is growth, but a lot of it contributed to, I think 66% of it was with the logic, contributed to 60% of the top line memory, contributed to the remaining ASML Extreme Ultraviolet EUV. So as for the technicals on this name, Shreve, I like the point that you're like, hey, when you essentially hold a monopoly in the space, what are people going to do? They're going to start gunning for you because there's only one person at the top essentially, but it's still been performing relatively well as it's grinding high. From August 2025, you're up 120%. And until you have an individual that can directly compete, I think you stay on the same trajectory.
Micron, everybody's talking about it, Neil. We'll have a look.
Zeta
SNDK and Micron are all dropping quite aggressively. I see SNDK down 6.2. Micron is down. Western Digital is down. They're all getting hit hard. Here it is. There's a Citron Research. I don't know when this came in. Let me just see here, because there's a hit piece here, but that I don't know if that came in earlier or not. I'm just looking at my blotter because there's a Citron Research report on SanDisk. Just looking, I don't see it from here.
9:30 a.m.
All right, so this one says, SanDisk is in the crosshairs of Andrew Left's Citron Research, which Tuesday announced its short position in the memory storage company. They argue that NAND cycle is approaching its peak, just as Samsung escalates competition in the premium solid-state drive. So in its note, Citron pointed to a significant move by SanDisk's former parent, Western Digital, as a key tell. We know that they were looking to offload. Western Digital sold a substantial chunk of SanDisk holding, roughly 25%, below current prices in a secondary offering. We reported that to you guys last week. In quote, this is what they wrote. Ask yourself why, Citron wrote, because they know the cycle is approaching a peak and they're not waiting for the bell. Okay? Samsung is seen as the decisive threat. So Citron's core bear case centers on Samsung's competitive posture. Samsung has a 30-year history of choosing market share over margin, Citron wrote. They wait for pure plays like SanDisk to get comfortable at 50% gross margins, then flip the switch. The firm added that Samsung has publicly stated it won't sell below 50% margins and is moving its best chips directly to premium SSD market. We'll read more about this when we get back from Adira.
Yeah, that short report you can read more about. I also reposted it and kind of gave a summary on X at TTV Research. I just reposted that again now, so you can find that on X for a quick look. Again, that came out like basically right after the bell. But I do want to mention as well this market as a whole. We do have some comments coming from the House China panel chair by the name of Moulinar, basically citing that China reportedly plans to sell Iran missiles, some more Iran tensions here. Furthermore, the same panel chair also calling for a revocation of China's privileged trade status. So once again, looks like the House China panel chair Moulinar calling for China's privileged trade status to be revoked. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Let's continue on. So Citron characterized the current memory tightness as Okay, illusory, arguing that Samsung's temporary yield problem in another product line have artificially constrained supply. That's interesting. Quote, with double the capacity of the 2018 peak waiting in the wings, this, quote, shortage is a supply mirage that can vanish in a single earnings call, the firm warned. The note also pushed back on comparisons to Nvidia. Quote, the market is pricing SanDisk like it is Nvidia. There's one problem. Nvidia has a moat. SanDisk sells a commodity. Interesting. The broader memory market, as we know. Okay, so then the track record, of course, of Andrew Left and Citron right there. And if you want, obviously, this is being reported all over the internet. Go ahead and have a read there. Let's go on to the next story, though. Let's talk a little FedEx. Oh, we have another 4 minutes so we can get this story done. FedEx has sued the U.S. government seeking, quote, a full refund of tariffs it paid under measures imposed, of course, by President Trump. The lawsuit follows a Supreme Court ruling, as we know, that found the powers illegal under IEEPA. FedEx filed the case in the U.S. Court of International Trade, where the IEEPA challenge was brought. The company appears to be the first major U.S. corporation to seek reimbursement after the Supreme Court's decision. Bless you, Neil. The Supreme Court, okay, we're not going to look at the whole Supreme Court. We already know that. Why does this matter for FedEx? Tariffs directly impacted transportation and logistics companies through the import and export flows, as well as cost structures, they say. A successful refund could provide a one-time financial boost for the company, really depending on the amount that they paid. More broadly, though, this reduces what they're calling the regulatory overhang that plagued the company, as well as potential cost uncertainty. Legal clarity around the tariff authority may also influence future trade policy risk for multinational operators. This is an interesting development, but one that you can't really say wasn't, we didn't know that was coming. We knew that there was going to be lawsuits immediately after the Supreme Court decision.
To kick things off with was Costco, right? Like Costco was like, hey, we don't want this, and we've seen how that affected the stock, but then it rebounded relatively quick. We'll take a look at some of the technicals here on FedEx and see what we got going on. FDX.
It looked really good, Joey. I mean, we've been talking about this. I think they got it to all-time highs. I could be wrong.
I swear a couple reports ago, I don't know if it was UPS or FedEx, but they're looking to split the segment. Yeah, I mean, there's strength everywhere, right? Outside of the chip trade or the AI trade.
Go to the monthly on that. I'm pretty sure we're all-time highs. I could be wrong, but just double check.
Pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's head over. Ooh, okay, that worked for us. We're really all-time highs on this one from May, and they offer a good dividend too, a 97% return. So you just have to look. There's trades outside of tech, whether it be some of the staples names that we've seen on massive runs. Here in FedEx, we've seen AMAT on a big-time run as well too. So there's a lot of positive things outside it. As Jim Cramer typically likes to say, there's a bull market somewhere.
All right, 158. Hold on. Let me just, Daryl, what's your take on the FedEx situation?
Yeah, I think for me, this is more kind of an extrapolation, if you will, but I want to take a look at Costco, because I mentioned this yesterday with Costco and the whole Netflix, Susan Rice, board member, getting some heat from, Laura Loomer and then Trump over comments that were made there. So this makes me wonder, because Costco, we know, was a company that was, at least, before this decision, they were going to be involved in a lawsuit here with regards to tariffs, right? Now that this verdict's come in, we know there is a member of Costco's board, Gina Raimondo, former U.S. Commerce Secretary. I wonder if we're going to kind of get what happened with Susan Rice there, right? You've got a member of a board with a company that is kind of in a contentious situation. Do you get it called out? I mean, I don't want to make, I know I'm out here speculating. I can't say I don't want to speculate. But I am curious. I think it is worth remembering that Gina Raimondo was recently added to the board around the time the suit was filed. So interesting look there for COST. And I think something certainly to kind of be aware of, in line with that FDX story from a trading perspective. I mean, FedEx is the type of stock I normally like, but this is just very light and not tradable. Doesn't seem like something the market cares about today, but this isn't a stock we necessarily expect to be an intraday trader, so this is something to keep an eye on the longer term as we get developments to this story.
Thank you very much for that. Joey, any final thoughts before we send it to the big boys?
No, I'm short here. A couple losses here today. We had a nice move on silver initially, where she was going over the news, and then once we got a pullback through the volume-weighted average price, I was looking for this move to be continued, but that was a nice 40-cent pop, essentially, and I didn't get to capture anything. I'm now short Novo Nordisk, maybe a move back into VWAP, but a choppier session for me today.
All right, guys. been great. Happy Tuesday. State of the Union tonight, of course. Nvidia earnings tomorrow. There's no shortage of market action here that we can expect going into the week, Joey.
Scan the QR code.
Scan the QR code, guys. The Academy is live. Scan that QR code. Start your journey. We're talking about the Trader TV Academy. I'm sure the boys will have more to say about that. See everybody at the big desk.
See you guys.